Life's the battlefield and we ain't feeling weak. From love to the game and the power we seek. Our voice is strong, breaking every peak. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Protect and provide, we're knights in the fray. Nothing off limits, we got something to say. Life and love, fitness and fight all day. Guys Night Podcast, let's ride the wave. Politics and prayers, ain't no subject we shun. Keep it real, keep it raw till the battle's won. Fitness, tricks to faith, every topic under the sun. With honor and valor, every man's battle begun. Warriors with word swords through the air. Every point sharp and every talk fair. Knights at the round table, come and pull up a chair. Join the brotherhood, words laid bare. Protect and provide, we're knights in the fray. Nothing off limits, we got something to say. Life and love, fitness and fight all day. Guys Night Podcast.
I don't know why there's not more of that around military posts. Like, there's just shit to get in trouble, like fucking STDs
bars
and
and bars and hookers. That's about it. I know I was at Fort Hood for 6 years, and they had a riding trail park type thing, but it wasn't anything remotely close to that.
Yeah.
And I lived in the barracks most of my time there, so if I went and got a dirt bike, it was just going to get stolen.
Yeah,
so, everyone's cars were getting vandalized and smashed in and everything else there. So
I had a CR125, it's like a 2-year-old bike, got stolen right out of the back of my truck in front of the barracks.
Yeah.
Like, nobody fucking saw this. But,
right.
You know, fucking army life, dude.
I just remembered, but we can't do my cousin because she's a girl, but she oversees drone activity on the airships.
I can see that you didn't watch the last episode.
Why?
We had a breakthrough. We had our first woman on the show.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, we're about to have 2 more, too.
When?
I don't know. One day when you can't come.
What? Wow.
I'm just kidding. All right, let's get this started. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Guys Night Podcast. As always, I am Will, and tonight we got a special guest for you, especially with everything going on over in the Middle East and that. Why better than a former Army drone pilot to join us. So, Dakota, welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude. I'm stoked to hear some stories, and not only that, but what you're doing now. And then, of course, I've got Evan. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, everyone?
He says he's going to bring some valuable questions this evening. That's why he needs his laptop. So we'll comment below if you think Evan brings any valuable questions to the show.
I also bring the goofiness.
Bullseye.
Bullseye. Yes.
Nailed it.
And then the other voice you hear there is David. What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? Good to be back.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit, a lot going on in the summertime. All right. So, Dakota, I'm glad you reached out, man, because, it's always a privilege to get to somebody to come on that's just got a whole new outlook on life as far as different things that they've done. And the fact that, 1, you were a drone pilot was cool, but 2, you dibble in a little taxidermy now, kind of, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm doing just skull mounts and stuff like that for now. I'm not getting into the full taxidermy with the hide and everything on it. So I really just started myself in Texas when I was stationed at Fort Hood. I started shooting some nice deer and started shooting some Aoudad and some exotics, and then I really didn't want to pay $8,000-9,000 for a mount every time I killed something. So I was like, I'm just gonna learn how to do it myself. And
Where'd you start?
I started
like where'd you start doing your research on how to do it?
Just Google search, probably a YouTube channel.
I was going to say, that's what I was looking for. It's like I tell people today, there's really no excuse not to be able to do anything because YouTube's got it all.
Yeah,
so.
I saw some dude probably from West Virginia boiling a deer head somewhere, and I'm like, all right, I can do that. So I went and got like a big seafood boil kit. It's like a 25-gallon pot, and I started with that and started with an Aoudad first, and then started with some whitetail and just kind of started tweaking stuff there, and then learned a lot and started to get a little bit better. And then I'm gonna change it up this year. I'm gonna get the beetles to take the hide and everything off, so the domestic beetles.
Oh, really?
I've seen that before. They use ants, beetles, other insects to strip the hide.
Yeah,
and then they soak it.
Yeah, so you have to degrease it if you really want it to kind of stick and stay. But using the beetles for sure, you could definitely want to degrease it and kind of pull all that stuff out of the bone, so that way it doesn't like fade or it doesn't really turn brittle.
When you say on the hide, like you put them on the actual carcass itself.
Yeah, so the most popular thing to make a terrarium, I guess you can call it, is like just an old chest freezer. People will turn that into a house for them, and then you just kind of set it up so they thrive, and then you feed them. And the more you feed them, the more your colony will grow and go from there. But yeah, I mean, you just cut the head off and put it in there and let them go to town. And I mean, they'll, take the skin off because you don't want all the hair and stuff left. But if you take the skin off, they'll eat all the flesh. They'll get in and kind of eat the brain out and all the cartilage that's left in there.
No kidding. Married?
I am married, yes.
And
twice.
Second time's the charm.
That's right.
How does she feel about a deep freezer full of carcasses and beetles?
We're working on it. That's why I don't have them yet. I don't have them yet, but I'm working on it.
Fair enough.
What's the time frame on that? So you throw a whitetail in there, and how long does that take?
If you have a couple thousand beetles, it'll take like maybe a week, 2 weeks
Pretty
at the
quick,
most.
yeah.
So, but the biggest thing is like, freezing your whatever you're trying to have them eat is like freezing it for a couple days or whatever, just to kill any bacteria or parasites or something that's in there, so they don't wipe out your whole colony. But
Gotcha. That makes sense.
yeah. So, and like I said, the more you feed them, the more they'll grow, and the more your colony will grow. And the biggest ticket that I have gotten for the approval for the beetles is as long as you can keep the temperature and humidity in a certain range, they can't fly. So I think it's like 75 degrees.
Oh,
as
so
long as
that's
it's like
the,
under 75 degrees, they can't fly. And then, but if it's under like 60 degrees, then they like don't eat and they kind of like hibernate.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, like the climate and the temperature and humidity control is like a big thing for those. But I mean, this past year I went through a couple pressure washers when it was -10 out, and I'm out there just soaked and frozen and busting hoses and water lines. And I was like, I got to do something else because this isn't cutting it. So started doing a little bit of research with a guy from church, and then we talked together for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this is the way to go. So,
So
right,
you're gonna
hold on 1 second. Let's see what this looks like. I'll make sure I have my.
These are domestic beetles, and we use them to clean skulls. They consume dead meat or carrion. We had a family member ask us, why can't you just use maggots? I see them out in the trash eating stuff all the time. Well, the answer is pretty simple. Maggots are only consuming meat during that one stage in their life. Then they turn into a fly and they fly off. Whereas the domestic beetles have at least four
I could see a
different
wife
life
having a problem
stages,
with
and
that.
all of those life stages are consuming meat. These are domestic beetles.
I was hoping to get a little bit better
More
dead meat or
view
carrion.
of the
We had a
beetles
family
just
member
like
ask
literally
us,
climbing all over.
yeah,
So
there's
you're-
some videos you can find. It's like a time lapse of it, and that's what I want to do. I have a couple GoPros that I really don't always use. I usually just have like one primary GoPro when I'm going and doing stuff, and then so I want to take one and kind of just assign that to being in the chest freezer and doing like time lapse videos of all these whitetails, and
That's
I've done a
cool.
couple bear heads and stuff like that too. So it's like,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
yeah, just something different for people to see and everything.
So what's the process after it's in there for a week and these? And did you have a question? You were in the middle of something when I interrupted that video. I'm sorry.
The climate control, is it the whole room? Like
just the freezer.
Just the freezer.
Yeah, a lot
itself?
of guys are, you cut a, couple inch hole out for an exhaust fan or whatever, and, run it out the window or run it into your garage. And then you can take, they have everything on Amazon now, but it's
course.
basically like an inline plug, and it'll be connected to your heater, and then you'll set the temperature so it'll cut off or cut on at a certain, and
like thermostat
but yeah,
controlled.
it's just kind of, you just cut out your holes in the side of your chest freezer or whatever, and then run your lines and everything else, and then just use like the ductwork tape, the aluminum tape, to
Yeah.
kind of seal everything off.
Okay, yeah. So you're not like taking over your entire basement for this project.
No.
It's
And we have a detached garage, so
that
she
works.
can't complain too much.
I mean, the worst case scenario, you could buy one of the, make yourself a little man-made shed or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that eventually too. But I can.
a Jeffrey Dahmer shed. Is that what you're talking about here?
All right. So what's the process after they clear all this off? What's next step for you?
so degreasing would be,
And what does that entail? Like, what are you using to degrease it? Like an
just
actual
Dawn dish
degreaser?
soap.
Or, okay.
Yeah, so just fill up either a bucket or a little kiddie pool, depending on how many you have, and put some Dawn dish soap in there with some cold water and let them soak, and dump the water and refresh it for a few days, and then from there let it dry, and then I'll do the whitening process, which it's a it's like a bleach powder and then a volume 40 like developer. It's all from like whatever Sally's Beauty Supply or you know whatever Ulta, whatever it is now. But I usually just order it in bulk and have it delivered to the house. But it's just a bleach powder and a developer, and I'll just paint it on, give it a nice thin coat, and then I'll usually plastic wrap it because it'll kind of expand almost like elephant foam or something, if you know what that is. Yeah, it'll expand. So I just do like plastic wrap around
just to keep everything.
Yeah, I really don't care if it gets all over the place if it's just in the garage, but I've had it kind of leak out onto the antlers and stuff, and then you bleach your antlers.
Yeah.
So then you gotta do a little bit of repair, and I usually just use like couple different shades of wood stain to kind of blend it and make it match as good best I can, and then just kind of restain the antlers.
I gotta imagine there's a huge market for this, right? Now, are you partnering with somebody? Are you gonna do processing, or is somebody gonna bring you the whole deer? Or are they gonna just bring you the head? Or
they've just been bringing me the head so far. I know there's some processors. The owner of Cannon Meats in Worcester, he was actually like super cool about me putting business cards and stuff like that. I went down there. We've always used them for deer processing and stuff. So I went and talked to him and just explained like, hey, you know, I just got out of the Army. I launched this business. Like, I'm trying to grow it. I'm not asking anything of you. I just want to advertise my business here, you know, so when people come drop deer off, then, hey, there's a skull mount guy or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And I'm sure, I mean, I could imagine that, you know, it's one of those I scratch your back, you scratch my back type things.
Absolutely.
You know, it gets to the point where you start doing this more popular, be like, hey, have it processed here, and then they'll bring me this or whatever the case might be. But yeah, that's awesome. So my head automatically goes like, oh, if I was watching a video of somebody do this, I'd be like, well, what's next? Right? Like, what else is it going to do? So is there a limit to this? Like, I don't know why, but maybe because of the size relevance or something. Like, the first thing is like, oh, could you do like a whole fish and have like a whole skeleton fish on a mount? Because for some reason,
just
I think
ask the question. He wants to know if you could do human beings.
No.
Yes, I usually charge extra for those.
No, but could you do like a whole skeleton of a fish in that instance or something like that?
Yeah, you can do fish. You can do, you know, if you want to do an alligator head or.
So there's really no limit to it.
No, not really. I mean, you could do a bird if you wanted. But yeah, I mean, those beetles are, you know, they'll eat all the flesh. That's what it is. Cartilage, fat, meat. You know, they won't eat the hair, they won't eat the bone, but they'll do everything else.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, there's, you know, lizards, snakes, iguanas, whatever, it'll do it all.
Do you see yourself like venturing into some other, like just some cool stuff so it becomes like artwork in a sense?
I would love to, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can get my hands on it, you know, I'm not going to go pay a couple $100 for a snake just to have beetles eat it, but So, but yeah, I mean, I would love to, you know, get some plaques or something like that. I've been talking to a guy, he's like in the Coshocton area. But he does like wood plaques and stuff like that. So I've kind of been working with him of like, you know, if I do a couple of deer skulls this year and guys want plaques, like, you know, what can you make for me?
So I'm actually glad you said that.
I was looking for it. But what's your hardest project so far that you've ever like done?
The one that I actually just finished up. So
really? What was it?
I had posted it on my Facebook page and the guy brought it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Said that he
is it up there now, you think?
Yeah, it should be up there. It should be 3 or 4 posts down, but said that he had it in a freezer. He was going to try to get a shoulder mount done, which is, you know, a full taxidermy mount. And his family or brother or whoever he's related to got a half a beef and took it out of the freezer. And he's like, oh, it's been out for like a day or so. And I'm like, all right, you know, no big deal. It was warm, but I didn't think anything of it. I threw it straight in my chest freezer. When I pulled it out, let it defrost so I could start skinning it and everything, the neck, the mouth, everything was just full of maggots. It stunk. The bone was already turning green.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I got the skin off, I didn't even make a video of it. I called him. I was like, hey, dude, you can pay me an extra $50 for me to do this, or you can come pick it up right now. And he's like, oh, I'll pay you. I was like, all right. So then when I started getting the skin off and stuff, I don't know if it was half rot or if the deer had gotten hit during, you know, season, or if it was just from fighting, but his nose was broken as well.
Oh, wow.
And he had like his left antler had, you know, like a fracture in the skull, and that was kind of green and pussy, and it was just a stinking mess. And
you got a picture of this up here?
Yeah, it should be.
Or did I just look under your photos?
Oh, it's on Empty Wallet Outdoors Facebook page.
But other to say, that had to probably be a lot of cleanup, a lot of repair,
Yeah, it was
a lot
it
of
was
time.
disgusting.
A lot of time.
That should be scroll back up.
Oh. Is it one of these?
No. Try clicking on the page itself.
Am I not on the page? Oh, you're right. Sorry. I can't see it for nothing right now.
But yeah, so there's a couple photos there, but
Right here.
yeah, that was it.
Jeez.
And it was, the meat was already black, and the tongue and everything was like melted green and everything. And
yeah,
I do have
fucking gnarly.
I do have a couple like a before and after picture as well of how it turned out and everything. So I was able to take the bottom jaw and get it clean and get it back together, and then I was able to get the nose pieces back in too after it was whitened.
Let's see. I was trying to. I don't know why it's. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry. I just completely pulled an Evan, but I think you'd enjoy this because I was like, I was pulling up his site, but here's this meme right here. Federal judge rules that Trump dropping an F-bomb without consulting Congress is unconstitutional.
Yeah, so this one right here is
Okay.
That's the after right here.
That's the after right
Wow.
there.
Oh wow.
So-
You fixed that up well.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
one
with
hell
the
of a
broken
son,
nose and
too.
everything. Yeah, it was a nice deer too. That's why
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do it for you, but yeah,
That's
and
a
then
hell of a rack on that thing.
Yeah.
and I usually give them the option of, most people don't know that they can get the bottom jaw attached. So
Yeah.
I like it that way. I like having the bottom jaw attached. It just gives it a nice clean look, whether you have it sitting on a desk or you hang it up on the wall. So I'll send them a couple pictures with and without it, and like, what do you want? And then I'll reattach the bottom jaw.
Dude, it's crazy. Those things almost look prehistoric when you actually look at them side out like that. Where'd that one go?
Yeah, so that coyote mount is the one that I actually brought for you guys. So,
Oh, no kidding. Let's check that thing out.
yeah, I got it right here.
Heck yeah, we like to add cool stuff to the wall. Oh, that is sick.
Yeah. So this will be for you guys, and then this is the 22-250 shell that I shot it with. So I took that. And,
I like how you that's awesome.
yeah.
That is tight.
So
Can I see that? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
so that was one of my earlier ones that I learned with basically, but yeah, I figured.
Yeah, that's super epic.
That's going on the wall.
Like you talk about prehistoric looking, like there's just something about a skull
Right.
that just makes everything look like.
Here, puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well,
That
Yeah,
is incredible.
I got some. I've done fox, raccoon. Raccoon are actually crazy looking, and whenever I'll have to.
have you done the whole animal with the raccoon or just the
just the head? Yeah, just the head.
See, that's another thing. It's like that size where it's like, dude, you can make something. Like I could just picture this like bones raccoon like up on a like log in
Right.
somebody's living room, and the wife yelling about it every day to get that thing and put it somewhere else.
Let's say, what's your favorite animal you did done?
Personally, it would be the biggest buck I ever shot was from Texas, and that was my personal favorite. But my favorite animal to do one on is bear. So it's actually, their heads are giant, but
Yeah, no kidding.
the first time I did one, I swear I got 2 to 2.5 pounds of meat off of the skull just from their their cheekbones. You get a half a pound fillet out of each cheek.
Jeez.
And it's just how much muscle they have for their bite power and everything. But
And what's that taste like?
bear meat's actually really good. So
I was gonna say I've had black bear meat. It's been a
yeah.
long time, but I remember it being pretty good. I didn't know if you could eat the muscles out of the cheek or if that's just.
I just throw it in the ground
Yeah.
burger, and whatever, like same with deer. I'll cut the meat out of the ribs and everything, and just use it for ground. And usually it turns into smokies or something anyhow.
Sure.
So it's
Are
not
you
like
doing
you're
your own
gonna-
processing for your own stuff? or
I do. I
you?
have for quite a while now.
Any
so.
desire to expand into that at all, or is it just like one of those avenues where there's so many people doing it out of their garage? It's like competition.
I think it's like that, yeah. And I don't, I really don't want to step on anyone's toes in the area, but I would, if I had the setup for it, I would definitely do it.
Now we talked about your Facebook page. Do you have a YouTube channel as well?
I do, yes.
And what are you kind of doing on there so far?
It was so. We can dive deep into the backstory of everything. I originally started this business and had the business idea of doing all of this with the YouTube channel while I was still in the Army, and I was
Okay.
stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was fishing.
So this is the logo right here.
all
I'm
the
looking
time.
at, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool.
So I was fishing all the time and, catching big, 30, 40, 50 pound catfish. I was catching all kinds of skipjack and, everything else. And I was like, I want to start a YouTube channel and everything. Well, by the time that came to fruition, I came back from Korea at the beginning of 2023 in March. And I don't know how it happened, but like the first weekend I was back, my wife got pregnant.
Oh.
So
I'm sorry, you said you don't know how that happened?
No, I don't.
clue how that happened.
It was the first weekend I was back. I don't know what happened. But,
We could find some videos that might help with that too, I think.
but yeah, so baby was born December. And then, so I have a hereditary like blood disorder. And I had my spleen taken out when I was 5. And it kind of affects everyone differently. Sometimes, sometimes the offspring doesn't get it. Sometimes they do.
The actual
Sometimes
disease, or
yeah, it's called spherocytic anemia or
Uh-huh.
spherocytosis. So my red and white blood cells are the same shape. So my spleen works overtime trying to take everything out rather than just white blood cells.
Gotcha.
That makes me, anemic. Blood levels are all over the place. Get sick really easy type stuff. And they take your spleen out to counteract that basically. And some people it's not even bad enough that they need their spleen out. Maybe they do like an iron substitute or whatever. Well, by the time my baby was 3 weeks old, he needed a blood transfusion.
Holy
and
shit.
he was like dying in my arms. So my unit was getting ready to go on another deployment, and I put in my leave. I put in my regular leave to get me to the paternity leave. And we were there. We were in the hospital for like 5 days because at his 24-hour checkup, they ran his blood tests and everything, and his hemoglobin was low. His bilirubin was high. So we did like blue light therapy for like 5 days. And it was.
And what's blue light therapy?
It's just like a lamp that they bring in, and it's a blue light, and then they have a billy blanket is what they call it. It's a bilirubin blanket, and it does the same thing. It's a blue light blanket that like a cocoon. And they cover his eyes with a little bandana thing, and they just have him under the light therapy, and it's supposed to break up the bilirubin and get his numbers lower. And then as his bilirubin gets lower, his hemoglobin will go up. And we did that for like 3.5 days, and it was to the point where, there's my baby just laying there. So my wife took a picture of me, like I'm just holding him under the lamp in his little blanket because, we couldn't really hold him or anything, and all we had to do was like, kind of keep him asleep in there, and it just sucked. And they were checking his blood levels like every 12 hours, and it was starting to get better. So then it was every day. Then we got released from the hospital, but then had to go back every day to check his blood and everything. And that turned into like every other day. And we're like, okay, we might be doing something here. Maybe his body's, he was a little slow to start gaining weight too. So we're like, maybe that was it. He's going to start putting on some weight now, and we'll be good. And then, I don't know, like 2 weeks later, he started dropping back down, and they're like, anything under 7 for his hemoglobin needs a transfusion. We're like, all right. So he was like 7.3, and they're like, all right, we're going to call Akron Children's, go to the ER, get, admitted and everything else, get established, and then, go from there. We'll get you set up for a transfusion.
So you were home at this point in time.
I was on paternity leave, but yeah, I was
But
here.
you guys were, this was back here.
Yeah, this
right?
is in Worcester Hospital that she had him. And so we did all that, and that was like one of the worst nights of my life being there. It ended up being like a 26-hour event. They couldn't get blood from him to test it. Then they got an IV in him. Then it dried up because they didn't do anything with it. And it was just a nightmare, man. Like,
yeah, just watching your baby
it was
get
supposed to
poked
be,
and prodded.
yeah,
and like,
he's screaming, and I ended up kicking all the nurses out of the ER room because they're just wrenching on his foot. No blood's coming out. I'm like, give him a break. Like it had been like 30 minutes, and he's just screaming the whole time, and they're like poking him and everything else. I was like, you guys just try the other foot. Get somebody else in here that knows what they're doing or whatever. So.
Yeah, not to take away from that story, but my brother-in-law, they just had twins, and one of them came out not breathing. He actually he assisted the birth himself because nobody had come in time.
Wow.
And they literally, it was like 30 minutes after a water broke, both babies were already born. So anyhow, they had to run a bunch of tests and stuff like that. And there's like just brutal. He's like, there's like, bursted blood vein in its head because they're pulling blood from anywhere they can at that point. So I can imagine like being the father, like and watching that happen and not being able to do anything is tough.
It was bad. So, and then, so we finally get upstairs. They run some of his tests, and he's at like 6.7 now, and still dropping. And he looks terrible. He just looks ghostly. Yeah. Just not moving, super like gray, paley skin, and like I'm holding him. And this is at like, 6 p.m. And here we go again. Like they can't get an IV in him. They can't start it. They get an IV in him finally. They tried his arms. They tried his legs. They brought the NICU nurse up to try one in his scalp, and they couldn't get it. And so they brought the flight nurses that were on call, and they finally got one. And I was like, thank goodness, So they ran the test to see what blood he needed, and it took like an hour to get from the blood bank because I think they had to, withdraw it from the safe and warm it up, whatever they had to do. And so they come back in, and I don't know any better to say anything or to know anything, but they start trying to put the blood in, and his IV's closed up. It's dried up. Oh. He's a baby. His blood level's low enough. His veins aren't big enough, and so I guess they usually do like a saline drip to keep everything open, and they didn't. So it just dried up again. Well, they were out of options for an IV. So they're like telling me that they can't give him any blood. And so like I'm holding him like just bawling, thinking he's going to die in my arms. Oh. And I'm just telling him like, I'm sorry. And everything else. And they get an anesthesiologist, and he's like 70 years old and looks like Bernie Sanders walking through the door. And I'm like, oh geez, here we go. Like, this is my guy. And as soon as he opened his mouth, I was like, we're good. Like that was the first time we'd already been there. This was like 2:30 in the morning, and we'd already been there for over 12 hours. And this is the first guy that came in and we dealt with that like was confident, knew what he was doing, wasn't scared to do it. He's like, this is what we're going to have to do. And he tried it. He's like, all right. He's like, I couldn't get it on this foot. He's like, but we're going to try the other foot. So I ended up putting one right through the top of his left foot, and that's where we did the transfusion.
Holy shit, dude. What an event, man.
Yeah.
And everything obviously turned out well from that.
Yeah, so we didn't know how long it was going to last.
So this is because of the same thing that you had that was hereditary, only why did it wait until you were, whatever age before?
Yeah, I was 5 when I had it taken out.
Oh, you were 5. Okay, so you were young. Okay.
Yeah. So
you just got lucky the initial couple of years.
Yeah, but really like my mom was 9 when she got it taken out.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Like it really just depends. But yeah, so that all happened, and his levels had to be like above 11 to leave the hospital, and he was like 11.3. So we finally left, and they're like, we don't know how long it's going to last, if he'll need another transfusion or how soon it'll be.
At this point, can they already take the pancreas? Is that even even discussed?
It's the spleen, but they say they wait until at least 3 years old because it's such a big operation that like the body can't keep up with it and stuff like that. So, and they usually like to wait until the spleen will start to enlarge from overworking. And so they'll do like an ultrasound on his spleen, and then once they see it like growing, then that's when they'll be like, okay, we need to go and take it out. And that 5 was the age that mine started to grow. So, yeah, we did that, and this was like the second week of January. He was born December 14th, so this would have been in the first week of January
of this year,
of 2024.
Last year, okay.
So that happened, and it was like end of February. He started to trend down again. I was like, damn, man. Like I knew there was a chance to have another one.
Now you were active duty at this point, so your paternity leave was probably over.
It was getting there, yeah.
It was getting there. So how long did they give you for that now?
So 2022, I believe it actually went into effect, but it was 12 weeks.
Holy shit. That's awesome. Good on the Army for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I don't remember anybody taking paternity leave when I was in, to be honest with you.
Well, it used to be 10 days, and it was always mission dictated. So there's always that, loophole in there, like commander's discretion or mission dictated. So it was always,
especially in like you were a drone pilot. So I'm sure there's not a ton of those. And
I was an instructor too, which is even worse. Yeah. So, cause that's an ASI attached to my MOS, and there's only like 100 and some of them. So, I had already talked to my brigade commander, and he's like, I'll give you 3 days. So
at this point,
so I was supposed to go back to Campbell 3 days after my kid was born so I could go overseas with these guys.
Wow.
And when all that stuff happened, I called. I was like, hey, I need to extend this, type of stuff. And it ended up happening. So my company commander at the time, Captain Guthrie, he is probably one of the best leaders that I had during my 9-year career, and it was because he fully advocated for his soldiers, and he was a family first guy. Most people just preach it, but he stood by it. And Colonel Turner was coming from the White House, so I was like, this guy, he doesn't care about, I'm just another number. He comes from the White House, and he carried the nuke for President Trump the first time, or the football is what they call it. And so I was like, this guy's not going to give a shit that, my son's dying in my arms. He's just wants another number overseas. But I ate those words because I put in for a hardship discharge, and I got one because I couldn't get my wife and them to move down with me. We went through that for like 2 years. She's got kids from previous relationships. So the older 2 boys are my stepkids. Okay. And then James is 18 months old now, and he's mine.
Right.
And I was like, something's got to give. Like, if you guys can't move down with me, then I need to get out. And so I put in for a hardship discharge and went back and forth for a couple months, getting all the T's dotted and I's crossed.
Did you have to go back overseas at all during that period of time?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
No. I rode out my paternity leave until the beginning of March of 2024. I went back to Fort Campbell. The night before I was leaving to go back from paternity leave, they called me and was like, hey, your hardship discharge got approved. You got 10 days to get out. And I'm like, I've been in for 9 years. You know how much equipment and everything else I have? So it was a hectic 2 weeks, but I got it done and got out. My last day was April 11th of 24.
Wow. Well, I mean, a lot of things to that story. One, so baby's doing well now. He's 18 months old.
Yeah, he's good.
So,
he's ornery.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Two, it's awesome when you hear stories like that involving the military, because that's one of the things. When I was in, it was 99 to end of 05.
Okay.
And that wasn't always the case,
No.
right? Like you talk about the commanders and preach, family first. When I got back from my first deployment to Iraq, we had given we were part of a volunteer force that went to Texas and went over with 3-7 Cap. Well, they were already over there. We literally went over 2 days before, landed in Kuwait, drove to the border, crossed the next morning. But there was 13 of us that volunteered. When we got back, post commander gave us 30 days leave. 10 days in, we got deployment orders for our unit.
Nice.
And we had 5 days to report back to base.
Yeah.
And there was the 13 of us are like, except us, right? And he's like, nope, especially you guys, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
they have that. They
so
have
it's
a
good to hear
fancy
things
pen
have
that can waive
changed.
your 12 time.
Yeah, right. It's good to hear that some things changed in the military. I know it's a lot's changed on the recruiting side, which is causing a lot of struggles right now. But from the side when you're in, I mean, to go through all that and know that you still have a duty to your country, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, as an instructor, there's less than a couple hundred of you Army wide, and it's obviously an important job. So it's good on them to be able to allow you to do that, and so that you can take care of your kid. I'm glad to hear that 18 months in, you're doing well, and he's doing well as well.
Yeah, he's doing real good. So
awesome. So was it from at this point on? Is it just something that kind of you have to keep an eye on as far as like continue to monitor levels and stuff like that?
Yeah, we haven't really had to go check his blood as much, but it's more of a like, is he eating and acting okay, or is he like lethargic? And then, he'll start to get really jaundiced too. So we check his fingernails and, make sure his eyes aren't turning yellow. And,
Despite
my
how
mom,
cool he might think it looks.
Yeah. My mom dealt with it with me. So if, my wife or I was like, oh, is this color off? We'll call my mom.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how's he look? And she's like, he's fine. So.
So you started that story by talking about like just before that you had this idea of making this YouTube channel, right?
Yeah,
now
sorry, I went off on a deep tangent.
No, that's
there.
okay.
That's what we do.
That's why we don't, it's one of the things we like about podcasts, because like I always say, oh, well, this one will be a short one, and it's like something drags you into conversation. And one thing that's different about this conversation and most is nobody has a cell phone in their hand, so it's like people could just talk.
Yeah.
So you said at that kind of point was where you kind of put the YouTube channel on hold, I'm assuming at that point.
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah, because I had everything set up to start the YouTube channel and do the YouTube channel in Tennessee and in Kentucky. So I had linked up with a few guys when I got to Campbell, and one of them was Kevin. His name's Kevin Norris, and he was a really close friend of mine while I was there. And he had a boat and stuff, and told me, if I'm bank fishing, where to go and stuff like that. And we became friends over time. But, I was going to try to start doing stuff with him and kind of go in through there. And then there was another guy He's got a pretty decent size following on TikTok and YouTube now. But it was Sinclair Above Water Fishing, and I went with him a few times and just to try to kind of learn, what are these guys doing and how are they talking and what do they got for a setup. And so I did that, and I had everything ready to, go all in on basically just a fishing and hunting outdoor channel. I loved hunting and fishing and, just being outdoors in general and camping and, survival and stuff like that. And, the moment I found out I was getting out of the Army, I was like, that's it. So I think I did like one video of like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm doing with the YouTube channel. Like, I'm getting out of the Army. I had to get out, take care of my family. So if I do anything, it'll be in Ohio. And then, I would really like to post once or twice a week. But man, I get to go fishing like once a month now. So it's hard, man. So I just been trying to make the most of it. And I think we're to a point now where James is a little more established. And then my wife actually lost her job at like the beginning of February. So we're kind of in a good routine now where I can kind of branch off and go fishing or go hunting and stuff like that now. So I'm hoping to put a lot of more content out now. But it's all just me. It's, everything's self-filmed. Everything is, set up by myself. Yeah. And self-edited. I'll get home and then it's like, all right, well, another 2 weeks from my time I went and recorded. All right, now he went to sleep early tonight. Now I have an hour to, start cutting videos down and editing. And, usually it's been so long that I get back on YouTube just to learn how to do certain edits and stuff again. But yeah, we're getting there. So.
Yeah, it's a time consuming. That was one of the things. So when, just to give you a background, I think we've talked about before on the Guys Night podcast, as far as like how I got this idea, but I probably watched videos for like 6 months on like all kinds of different ways. And the biggest thing that hung me up was editing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do not have time to edit a 3-hour or 2-hour video. So that when somebody's talking, it would cut to them. Like that would take me hours. And then Adobe came out with the multi-camera autopod, right?
Oh yeah.
Where so like it takes the audio, you connect it to the video, and then it just cuts on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, now I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, like all these guys were like, this takes a 4-hour job by a professional editor and turns it into 25 minutes for a rookie. And I was like, all right.
Perfect.
That's me.
Yeah.
We're done.
That's
Let's
on
go.
me. But yeah, and it's crazy because, I watch all these different guys on TikTok and stuff like that that do all kinds of like content creation and stuff like that. And theirs are all shorts and based around like just, whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, man, the editing techniques and like the skills that they have and stuff. It's like, I just do not have time. I was like, bless these kids. And I even told my daughter, I was like, you're 16. You're supposed to be a pro at this. Like you're going to really need to step up your TikTok game so that you can come edit for me and do some.
Yeah. You should be able to format in your sleep by now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my biggest thing is like, I can't like purposefully like go set up something for like, for a clip or for like, it's just not authentic to me. And that's what I really wanted to do is just film as I go and whatever happens, happens.
I think that's a genuine great idea for an outdoors channel. Is like, how do you find a good spot? Like, hey, we're going to walk around this morning until we find a good spot, and then you just find that, 20, you cut it down to those 20 minutes or whatever it is. Cause I'm sure on a channel like that, you're going to want to probably keep it under 20 minutes, but,
that's been my goal actually, is about 20 minutes.
Yeah. I think if I was, and obviously long form and podcasting is different, but I think if I was going to do a channel that was based off of like doing something, for instance, like, your outdoors channel, I think that what I would do is I would start, and ask people that don't hunt if they like. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that want to learn how to hunt, want to know how to gut a deer. And I think that is something that's genuine, where it's like, man, I remember the first time I did this, I had no clue what to do. Like, I didn't know where to go, what to wear. Do you have to buy all this expensive gear? Do you have to buy an expensive gun? How do you zero in your gun? And I think there's how to shoot a bow, whatever it is that you're doing. I think that there's a lot of room for that. And then it's just getting people to tune in to like just learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my biggest thing too, is, a lot of these guys get, Sika and all these big name camo brands. And it's like, dude, your gloves cost more than my whole costume does
Yeah,
right now,
right.
you know? And it's like, it's called Empty Wallet Outdoors for a reason, you know? So like, I'll go get Walmart camo. I'm not ashamed, you know? I still kill deer with it. I
Yeah,
still
I
kill
mean-
whatever. I still catch whatever with the Walmart rod, you know?
Yep.
I don't need to go get a $300 Fluger rod just to, you know, catch 2-pound bass on, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that was just my biggest thing is just like be authentic and just do whatever it is that I do and just put it out there. And then my biggest thing was like, I was trying to come up with all these great video ideas to like get millions of views right off the bat. And it's like, you know, and I kept watching my own YouTube, you know, watching YouTube videos for my own research and everything. And it was like, your first videos are going to suck.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just
That's
put
what
out a
everybody
video.
says. Just hit record,
Yeah,
right? That's
just
like
hit record and do a video, and then just make a goal of like learning a new editing skill every time you do something.
Sure.
So, you know, I would do a new cut, and then the next video I did like a picture in picture, and then, you know, stuff like that. So
What software do you use for your editing?
I use Shotcut because it's free.
Fair enough.
So yeah,
I mean, Empty Wallet Outdoors. The other aspect of it is you're in a good neck of the woods as far as hunting.
Yeah.
So like, you know, my buddy, it's funny. I was like, I wonder if I know this guy, but you're much younger than me. But my buddy lives over on Gerhardt,
okay,
and I know he hunts and does all kinds of stuff out there. And we've gone out there quite a few times and fished in people's, you know, your neighbors' ponds and whatnot. But that's a great area for hunting. And I mean, you got, what's the Bearded Butchers right up there. I know they do.
yeah.
some hunting,
I really
they do
want to
some
talk
cool
to them
stuff.
because I want to go do, you know, like a steer head or a bison head or something for them, and I want to, you know, I don't want to charge them. I just want to like kind of work with them and network with them and just kind of
Yeah,
dip my toes in with
they're
them, you
pretty
know?
big for their.
Yeah.
We've tried to reach out to them a couple of
sure.
times because we want to do a thing. We're at like 3,100 subscribers, I think, and we want to get to when we get to 5,000, we want to spend like $500 and just go up to Bearded Butchers up to their whitetail meats or whatever.
Yeah, white
and just
feather
buy
meats.
like $500 worth of random meat.
Yeah.
And then come back here and like invite all our guests and stuff like that. And be like, hey, we're just gonna spend the whole day
That's
smoking
sweet, yeah.
cigars,
Heck
smoking
yeah.
meat. So we tried to like drag them in and be like, hey, but yeah, no luck. And I know they got like a podcast that they got going on and stuff like
yeah.
that too. And you know, when they're I think I saw something the other day that between all their channels now they have like 10 million followers.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
So when they get to that point, like they're not really. There's probably a ton of people that are like us, a couple thousand subscribers or whatever, and they're like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully they hear this and they're like, dang, this guy's freaking sweet. He's right up the road, and
yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
I live in Burbank, so I'm not far at all.
yeah, not at all. But let's steer back a little bit because you were in the military for 9 years.
Yeah.
When was that? 2015.
2015
Yeah.
to 2024. Yeah.
So did you go in knowing you wanted to be a drone pilot?
No. So I knew this question was going to get asked, and I kind of chuckled to myself because I've never been asked that since I enlisted, and then you know I got out, and so I run this business on the side right now, and I have a full-time job that I'm currently working just to you know pay bills and support.
What are you
the family
doing
and
now
everything.
currently, if you don't mind me asking?
I work for a company called NeoX Systems, and we are developing liquid hydrogen fuel solution for drones.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm a test pilot for them.
Oh, that's sick.
And we have a couple contracts with the Army and the Air Force that we're working on as far as, you know, zero emission energy. And it is also like,
Now, are they local?
they're at the Lorain County Airport. So they're in Elyria.
Oh,
So it's
that's
about an hour
awesome.
drive for me.
Yeah, but still, that's awesome to have a company like that that's working on something that's kind of groundbreaking.
Yeah,
in a
I
sense.
got super lucky because I got on April 24, found the job in May of 24, interviewed a few times, and then accepted the position about this time last year. Because I think so tomorrow's my birthday.
Happy birthday,
I
man.
thank you.
Happy
And
birthday.
I signed the contract for this job on my birthday last year, and then started July 8th.
Okay.
So I've been there for almost a year now.
I mean, that's a
but-
perfect match for both of you because I can't imagine there's too many 9-year veteran drone pilots just floating around Ohio right now.
Yeah. So
awesome. So yeah, so you said it's kind of interesting story, but yeah, what did you want to go in as, and how did drone pilot become your thing?
so I wanted to go be a tanker. So
Oh God, somebody saved you.
yeah, yeah. My recruiter was a tanker. That's what saved me.
Oh yeah.
So I'd
Honesty's
always
the best
wanted to
policy.
join. Yeah, I'd always wanted to join. I I was able to do too much at too young. So I enjoyed a very party style lifestyle when I was young. And my buddy and I, we basically moved out our senior year, got an apartment together. And then we got a job. His dad worked for the city of Medina as a garbage man. So we graduated and then got jobs at the city of Medina as garbage man. We were making good money, especially whenever we were getting called for overtime for, like cleaning out the square of Medina for, the ice festival and plowing and, whatever. Yeah. So, and then I got a second job at the Stop and Go right there in Route 3 on the south end and worked there.
In Creston?
No, in Medina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
right across from basically like where the ice cream shop
Yeah,
are.
right down the road from here. Yeah.
And so I worked there as a second job, and that was all my play money and stuff like that. And I just got to the point where I was like, this is not going to go well if I continue living down this route. And Nate Heaton is a guy that worked at the city. He was also in the Army for 5 years. He was in the 82nd, did a few deployments. We talked about it. I asked him about it and told him I wanted to join and stuff like that. And finally worked up the courage to go in there. I told him, I was like, I want to go be a tanker. I want to deploy. I want to go shoot a bunch of people with a machine gun. He's like, oh, well, you can leave in 9 months. That's when the next opening is. I was like, all right, well, I want to be a machine gunner for a helicopter then. He's like, well, you got to be a Black Hawk repairman, and then you got to get crew chief qualified and do all this other stuff. And I was like, well, how long is that going to take? And he's like 2 years. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that either then. And I was like, what else do you have? And the other job was like a 25 Sierra, which is like a satellite repairman or something. I was like, I don't want to do that. That's dumb. And he's like, well, I got this unmanned aerial systems operator. And I was like, what's that? And he showed me a bunch of videos of like the Gray Eagle and the Predator dropping Hellfires and everything. I was like, sign me up. So that's how I did it. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know what it was going to entail. I never even flew a drone at that point. Like, I didn't know those were a thing.
I think the Army's finally getting a hint that you just need cool videos. Because when I went in, it was literally like an office with like no windows. And they're like, so you're here to sign up. Take the ASVAB. We'll see how you do.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a 110. You can do anything that you want. What do you want to do? I don't know. I just don't want to go to college. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My GT score was like a 110 or 111 or whatever. Or like, oh, that's the golden ticket. You can pick any job you want. And I'm like,
so at that point, you had no aviation experience at all.
None whatsoever.
Zero. Or any interest in it.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and so I grew up and graduated from Wadsworth High School. So I'm from this area, and I just grew up hunting, fishing, and whatever. I wasn't doing any of the
and living every day.
And,
Fishing, living every
especially
day.
back then, that was it was an expensive hobby for sure, and I didn't have the money for all that. So I had never even known what a drone was or what the difference was or whatever. So
you go to basic.
2015. That's pretty like rudimentary as far as the public sector in drones back then. Like it's not like you can go out and get like the DJI drone then. I mean, it would have been junk. So like
no, it was the Phantom. There was you remember before the DJI Phantom?
I don't even remember.
I think it was like the Phantom 2.
Yeah, Phantom 2.
Yeah, 10 years ago. Like who's thinking about flying a drone for a living? So yeah, I can imagine.
So walk us through, so you finished basic, obviously, because that comes first.
Yeah, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training. Graduated.
Fun spot to dig foxholes.
Yeah.
Fort Sill.
Yeah, so I graduated there, went to Fort Huachuca for my AIT. At that time, it was like 23 weeks was your follow-on training. And I think anything over like 18 at the time, it was considered PCS. So I technically PCS'd from basic training to my AIT.
Right.
And we were, permanent party there. And we started off with just, it's called UGS, which is Unmanned Ground School. And we learned about airspace and weather and clouds and, stuff like that. And we actually did enough to take our private pilot's knowledge test.
Really?
Which was really cool to do.
Did you take the test?
Yeah, so we all took the test. Mostly everyone passed. And I wanted to kind of follow on and get my private pilot's license. But being active duty, that's like impossible. Like only the National Guard guys that have a lot of money could do it. Because then you have to go get an instructor, pay for the fuel, your classes, and you have to get certain flight hours in the plane and this and that. And it was just like I didn't have 10 grand or the time to do it at the time. So it expires after like 2 years. So that 2 years was up and I was like, whatever. But we went from there and then we did USO, which is like unmanned something, but it was like combat identification, and then learning like screening, aerial security, recon, just all of that stuff, that all the different types of missions that you can do. Because I didn't know it at the time, but I was ended up being assigned the Shadow platform, which is a lot smaller than the Predator. Gray Eagle is kind of like the same.
Right.
And ours was a lot smaller, and those are division level assets, and the Shadow is a brigade level asset. So much smaller scale. Instead of having a Gray Eagle company, you are now in a Shadow platoon. And the Army royally fucked that up because they put a Shadow platoon, so an aviation platoon, in a military intelligence company that's in an engineer battalion that's part of your armored brigade. So one, none of the funding comes to us, even though we're like the most expensive MOS.
Right.
And then two, nobody uses us right. So, we are basically ISR, which is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. But there's so much more to it than that, than just flying in a circle and burning holes in the sky.
I'm surprised. I mean, I can see where they put you just to put you somewhere, but I'm sure in most cases in your deployments, you were working as a task force attachment, right?
Yeah, we did a lot of work with SFAB and artillery units and stuff. And then so there are aviation units, the combat aviation brigades. They do have a UAS platoon in each of their 3 troops.
Mhm.
So they have one attached to the attack troop, the reconnaissance troop, and stuff like that. So some of the guys got to do their job like it's supposed to be, and it's actually like an aviation unit in an aviation world. But a lot of us just were sucking the suck. But it's the biggest thing that I noticed from other MOSs is it's a self-driven MOS. Like you can go as far or as little as you want to go. And I've always been pretty prideful. If I'm putting my name on something, it's not going to be half-assed. So,
let's go back to your AIT real
sorry.
quick, because we went into initially you're doing, a lot of basically standing up, trying to stay awake in class for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You take your license. At that point, you start learning about the different types of missions you're going to fly. But 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, you haven't touched a drone at this point, right?
No, we don't until I want to say each of those is like 2 months long.
Oh, wow.
Or
okay.
8 weeks long, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 months. So I was like 16 weeks in before we even got our platforms. And then we get our platforms, and then we go to Sims for like another month. And we have to get a certain amount of hours on Sims, and we do all these evaluations. So that's we're learning the software, we're learning the emergency procedures.
Does that take place? Are you maintaining drones at all? Like, are you responsible for inspections, pull downs, tear downs, cleanups, things like that?
Inspections, yes, just as far as like pre-flight inspections go and stuff like that. And then once you progress as being an operator goes, once you get aircraft commander and then instructor operator, you work with the maintenance leads a lot more.
So
but
the
that
maintenance
was a
team's essentially
MOS.
still monitoring that they have. Yeah, I was gonna say it's in its own MOS to do the. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I was just trying to figure out, because I would imagine like it's like before you shoot the gun, you have to learn how to take a weapon apart and strip it down and clean it and all that. So
we weren't turning wrenches or doing safety wire and stuff like that, but we could inspect something and see that something was wrong. Or
are you even in the same location as the aircraft at this point?
Yeah, it's all so at Fort Huachuca. It's all at Black Tower, but we were not on the live flight line yet.
Right.
So to this point, I still have not really worked with any of the drones like in person.
You haven't even seen them.
Right.
I'm assuming. Yeah.
So,
so the next step is going to Sims.
Yeah.
So you're just learning controls and how functions work and stuff like that on computers.
Yeah, and we had
are they pretty high powered? Are they pretty ridiculous Sims? I would imagine they would have to be.
Yeah, they're I forget what it all runs on and stuff, but it's the upgraded system when I was getting out, it was all like NVIDIA, Red Hat, stuff like that, and they have a lot of VISMs, so like virtual whatever, but it's like computers inside a computer. So there was a lot of layers to go through to get it all to connect and everything.
I have to imagine the Sims is pretty identical to real world, because
100%, yeah.
You're in a trailer, you're in a building, wherever, right?
Yeah. So our control station was a box mounted on the back of a Humvee, and inside there's your power rack in the back, and then you have another like signal rack that has like a power strip, and then your radios go in the back there for you to key, and then you have remotes in the front. But you have 2 screens when you sit down. When I guess I should say when I started, I flew the V1, which was a completely different aircraft and control shelter. But we switched over to the V2. You have two screens in front of you. One side is controlling the aircraft, and then one side is controlling the camera. So you're working together during your flight to, hey, I'm going to bank hard right or bank hard left or whatever. And we would do a lot of manned, unmanned teaming. So we would work a lot with the Apaches, do laser designation for Hellfires and sparkling targets and stuff like that.
So is this something like this? Is this similar or is this?
Yeah, it is somewhat similar, just not that high tech. So if you
that had to be during COVID, like wearing masks.
Yeah, I guess.
If you type in like RQ7 Bravo control station, it should pop up.
Can't see, so I can't.
So like that first picture there, that gives you a good glimpse of like having the two sides. Usually the left side is controlling the aircraft, and you can see the AV control panel, and then the right side is working the payload and the camera.
I got you.
And they're using the imagery and then like the map to payload correlation to figure out where everything's at.
And that other, well, when you go back.
Sorry, you want me to go back?
Yeah, that's the aircraft right there, right?
Yeah, that's
that one he's hovering over.
Is this the one that you worked with?
Yeah, that's the version
Shadow?
2. So that's like that's the version 1, sorry. So that is before everything became encrypted and a little bit more increased endurance and stuff that they got out of the V2. But
so are those carrying payload at all?
No, they have done multiple prototypes, multiple pod prototypes to try to get us there.
Mm-hmm.
When the Army flew the Hunter, they used Viper strikes for their munitions, and they wanted the Shadow to implement that. And they tried it a few times, and it just didn't come through. Yeah.
I guess you could always just strap an IED to it and fly it into Russia like Ukraine did. Right?
Yeah, one of these costs like 1.2 million though. So
wow.
Yeah.
God, hell
So
no.
is that, it's mostly a recon aircraft?
Yeah, 100%. The camera itself is like $750,000. So the way it's designed is
Well, how high up are you flying those?
so you can fly up to 15,000.
Okay.
A lot of times for our slant range that we needed for like laser designation, we wanted like 4,000 to 8,000 feet above ground.
Okay.
And that gave us a good amount above them because we have a whole, designation chart that we have to be this many feet up, depending on how many feet away we are and stuff like that. So
Sure.
we usually stuck between like the 5,000 to 8,000.
So VNE 15,000 feet, and then ideal 5,000 to 8,000 feet.
When you're lasering a target, basically.
Yeah, correct.
So just out of visual sight, essentially, because that thing's literally looks like it's only about 12 feet across, maybe 15
It's
feet?
like 20.
Is it really?
Yeah. So this one itself is about 15.
Okay.
And then the increased endurance package came out and then was adopted with the V2. And they're longer, skinnier wings, and those are about 22-foot wingspan.
Holy smokes!
So what range? What speeds?
So the signal range is 125 kilometers, and it's all electronic line of sight. So you fly behind a mountain, you're going to lose it. And then the speed.
What happens when that happens?
So there's a return home mode. So so you program a coordinate before during your pre-flight checks, and then you can either have it set at a certain altitude or certain position, and then you can have it either climb to that altitude and then transition, or you can have it transition and then climb, or you can do it en route. So there's a ton of fail safes because you have a bunch of nose picking privates, and you got to have some control in there.
Well, I was gonna say, if my DJI drone is smarter than this, I'm gonna be sorely depressed. That our military is spending $1.2 million on this thing. But
the material it's made out of is like milk jug plastic.
That's crazy.
So,
Really?
Yeah,
it's all the technology.
It's pretty.
So how does weather affect that then?
It doesn't, because we don't fly during weather.
Really?
So if it's too cloudy, if it's sprinkling, if it looks like it's gonna rain, we didn't fly it.
Wow.
So
those millions of dollars, they can't weatherproof the motherfucker.
yeah. So the new ones were going to be.
Okay.
They scrapped the
I don't
Shadow
know.
project.
I don't know how in depth you guys are in the current events, but like the FTUAS program is like kind of gone right now. But so the propeller itself is like made out of balsa wood, and then there's just a rubber like compressed wrap on the propeller itself. So when that's spinning, 6,800 RPM and it's hitting raindrops, it's going to start peeling that off. And then that balsa wood swells and then you lose your
it's
aircraft.
gone.
So yeah, it's like the rain limit on it was like 0.2 inches an hour, but how are you really going to measure?
Yeah.
So depending on the mission, we're like, whatever happens, happens, And like,
there's $1 million down the drain. Whoopsie.
like I've landed on runways that are like flooded out already, and there's just water coming up and everything. And but yeah, so it's designed like the camera is the most expensive part out of it. So the camera is the round part right hanging underneath the belly, and then behind that there's like a kind of angled looking box, and that's the parachute. So the parachute's designed to come out from underneath the aircraft, and then it catches on that Ella rudder in the center there and turns the aircraft upside down. So it'll land upside down to protect the camera.
Oh, wow.
So, and we've crashed aircraft, we've lost an engine, pop shoot, and, aircraft lands, breaks a couple antennas. You have to replace the main compartment cover, knock the rocks out of the camera and plug it all back in. And, a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 as long as the parachute works fine, and go from there. So
that's incredible. So, what led you to obviously going through that class and becoming a soldier in the aspect of a pilot? What then transitioned you to go? Well, did you do anything as far as deployments or anything like that prior to becoming an instructor?
Not combat deployments, no.
No.
So I went to Korea, went to Germany, went to Europe, I should say. We went to several countries and stuff, but we did a lot of work with like special forces, like just doing training part of special forces. And I had some good instructors that were in charge whenever I was coming up. So it made me want to be good at my job, which in turn helped me be a better leader when I started getting promoted and everything. But, I quickly found myself like being in charge of people that outranked me because I was an aircraft commander and they weren't. I'm a PFC that's been in for a year, and I'm, getting evaluated for aircraft commander. And here's a 8-year specialist that isn't even RO1 because he sucks,
Right.
So, yeah, it was really just, I wanted it. I put that uniform on every day, and, basic training really kicked my ass mentally. I was really humbled in basic training and AIT. I thought I was Billy Badass back in Ohio, and I was this big country boy that nobody was going to mess with, and I quickly learned my lesson. So so I just really just tried to be the best I could every day. I put that uniform on and went from there.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I was like, the military did make me a better man.
Yeah, 100%.
Like at 17 years old, I was a fuck up. I had no idea what I was going to do. I would have been the kid who just spent the rest of his life working at the gas station, smoking weed on Saturday with his buddies with no direction. But it was, once you join the military, you go through basic one, you automatically learn like discipline. There's like pride in like getting up on time, getting your day started, all that stuff. When you have good leaders around you, then there's like this desire to like increase your own capability and be a better soldier, so that you could become a leader. And then I think, and then obviously you learn how to work lots of hours without additional pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when I came back, like I went to the car dealership to trade in my Trans Am that I drove around on a military base back to Ohio where I needed a truck. And they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I was like, "I just got out of the military last week. I was looking for a job and saw this car or whatever advertised." And they're like, "Well, you want to sell cars?" I was like, "I don't know." But I was like, "What does it take?" They're like, "Well, it's long hours." I'm like,
"Okay,
I got that." So yeah, I progressed so quickly just because of the fact I was willing to work 7 days a week, bell to bell, and I was single. I didn't have anything else going for me, so why not just put in every bit of effort into work so that hopefully it pays off later in life, which fortunately it did. So yeah, there's a lot of great that comes out of the system, and it's funny because when you hear boot camp or you see the video, it's funny. I haven't seen a boot camp video or movie at all in the last like 15 years.
Yeah,
probably.
you don't want to.
I don't know what it's like now.
It'd be like a Disney movie coming out now.
Based on my buddy, he just retired last year or the year before as a recruiter. Based off of the stories he told me with recruiting, I can only imagine what basic is like. And it was starting to get like
here's one. It's called Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, right.
Is that about boot camp? No,
it could very well be. And you mentioned like guys that outranked you. Like I remember when I first got to my duty station, he's now one of my best friends. The guy just retired actually. He was an E3 and I was an E1. And I remember him being able to like drop me, light me up.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I got to my duty station, I was like, I thought this is supposed to be cool after you're done with the basic AIT part. And
That is the cool part.
I mean, it was only like 2 months of him giving me shit and making
Yeah.
me his bitch or whatever, in the sense of like do all this crap and try to trick me with going to get AIR from the mechanics bay or whatever. But you know, like you quickly learn like, all right, who's going to soldier up, who's going to take pride in coming to work and who's not. Man, when I was getting out, like it was crazy how many guys were on extra duty for like the whole time they were part of the unit. I was like, do you not get, like, why did you even join the Army?
Yeah.
Like you have no desire to ever follow a guideline, a rule or anything. And like, it blew my mind. And then it got to the point where we started deploying with these same guys. And I'm like,
I don't trust this guy.
no,
to save my life.
My last trip in Iraq, literally, it was we came back from a QRF mission, and this one kid, Benitez, I don't even care if I mention his name. He's such a shithead, but he didn't clear his fucking weapon when he gets on post. So like, half of us are back, everybody's laying in their bunks. The other half are out on post duties or whatever in Iraq, and boom, what the fuck? Kid fired off a round out of his M16. It ricocheted off the ground. It literally went right through his we had like these little metal building things that we took from other buildings for and right through the cot next to it, which was my best friend's. If he was laying there, like it would have been over. Like it was literally like dead center, top of the bunk, and I was like, I put that kid on the ground so fast. I was like, I wanted to kill him more than the freaking Iraqis ever out there, you know? And it's like, God, these are the kind of guys that you deploy with now. You know, so, you know, you see that mission get accomplished the other day that Trump sent those guys on over. And it's like, man, there's still some high speed people out there, but there's
100%.
Still a lot of low class.
I think as the military has regressed, it's definitely going, you know, before it was, you know, the Rangers and the Rangers were like one step, and then, you know, then you had Special Forces, and then you had Green Berets and SEALs and stuff like that. But I think just the military as a whole, like conventional Army is still just staying way down, you know, physical standards, accountability, you know, the whole gender woke shit. I'm not even going to get started on right now, but, you know, stuff like that. Like the conventional Army and the soft community are just continuously splitting further and further apart, where, you know, Rangers was a fairly easy next level to get into, you know, progressing your career or.
Yeah. And when he says easy, he doesn't mean like it wasn't hard to accomplish, but it was like, if you were a high speed soldier, you were in good shape. Like it was like, okay, like there's a reasonable expectation that you can go from one to becoming a Ranger.
Yeah. And you would have a commander or first sergeant that will pull you to the side and be like, hey, you know, private specialist sergeant so-and-so, like, have you ever thought about doing this? Like I would give you a letter of recommendation if you wanted to go. And now it's, you know, I think I know it's not intentional, but it's just the same thing with the government always. You know, they might have great ideas, but the execution behind it is garbage. And, you know,
well, you look
if
at the
their
PT
best
test
soldier
alone.
Yeah. That
is
was
a perfect example. They made it harder to max. Okay, great. But then they made it easier to pass.
Yeah.
You know,
my
like,
shitbag soldiers were walking on the 2 mile because they only need 22 minutes to pass.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then you have, you know, a 36-year-old, you know, E6 that's passing out on the run because he's trying to get like an 11:30 to max it out. So that way he can go to Pathfinder school or something.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just, you know, the execution behind it is always garbage. But then, you know, you'd have, you know, they don't use the word toxic leadership anymore. It's, you know, counterintuitive or something like that. I don't know what it is, but, you know, I've seen dudes that, you know, could have been Green Berets easy, could have been, you know, at the White House and, you know, promoted to whatever rank they ever wanted. But that first sergeant doesn't want his best soldier to leave the unit to go be a whatever, because that's
life
going to
in
be
general, right? You know, I see that. Well, my first when I told you about working in a car dealership, 5-6 years in, like I've been top salesperson for like 4 years, but my general manager doesn't want to take me off the floor because that's one less guy who's got selling 25, 30 cars a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's not a reason to hold my career path. You should be utilizing me to train the rest of these people then, right? That's the idea of management. But I think management, leadership in the Army, like the idea of getting to E5 or E6 and becoming a squad leader or a platoon sergeant or platoon leader, wasn't necessarily, and this started with like some of the lieutenants and stuff coming in too. They didn't come in as a leader. They came in with the required time or the required rank to be a leader.
Right.
And then they just thought like, oh, I stand at the end of the line and freaking let them know that 13 of my 13 guys are here and that's my leadership. And it seems like that's becoming more and more in effect. And then, like you said, you get one high-speed guy out of the platoon. Well, shit, if I lose him, that platoon's going to be a clusterfuck.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, yeah, that's a shame. And the other aspect of it, too, is I think obviously you have, there's special forces and things like that. I feel like they're starting to separate themselves. The Army's just becoming numbers.
Oh, yeah.
As far as, we got to have this many soldiers. Who cares what they do? It's just the fact that we have the numbers that we could say we have the numbers.
It 100% is.
But
I've seen it on deployment, and I've seen, guys on profile, or I've had guys that were ETSing in a month or 2 months, and, they've been in for 5 or 15 years, and they're trying to get out and start their life on the outside. And I've had sergeant majors deploy them for 3 weeks just to send them back so they can start clearing post.
That's
just
crazy.
To say that was another number that they sent on that deployment.
Sure. And just so the battalion or the company can collect a few more extra dollars. And
and it goes both ways as far as, this outstanding soldier, you want to keep in your unit because, he's great and awesome and he makes you look good. But then I've also seen, we had a soldier, not in my platoon, but in the company, that got another female soldier heavily intoxicated, kind of quartering in the room. Nothing physical came out of it, but definitely had the intentions to. And somebody in the barracks was able to save the situation, but he was one of our PT studs, so it was all swept under the rug.
Yeah.
So,
and that just goes back to leadership. I mean, it's like any good business model. Like, level up your entire crew. Right.
Yeah.
Don't let it be the 80% carry or the 20% carrying the 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
And unfortunately,
knock on wood, like we haven't had a September 11th since September 11th.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think, I don't know, you're kind of skirting around like the woke stuff and all of that. Like, I'll be very curious. I mean, I'm fully confident that we have enough high-speed guys. Like, we're still the U.S. of fucking A. So, like, we're going to handle business. But I think the end of the woke stuff happens when the next September 11th happens.
Yeah, and we might not be too far away from it.
I don't think we are. Like, that's kind of the scary thing right now in the world. Like, just kind of pivot to that. So I was not in the military. Like, I was too much of a pussy. They sent me I went into law enforcement. So, but it's all the same shit. It's just on this soil. And so don't even get me started on the woke stuff in that environment.
Sure.
I think like this ship is going to get righted really, really quickly in that, all the wokesters on both sides, whether it's here or abroad, I think all of that's going to clean up really, really quickly. And it's the same thing. Like it's the guy who didn't clear his weapon, or it's even worse. It's it was the walk-on lieutenant who finished a nursing program and then got recruited as, corpsman or something. And then bullets start flying and they're hiding under a bed because they're terrified and they can't do anything. Right. Like, I think that's going to figure itself out really, really quickly here.
I think the problem with the military is the same thing we've just talked about in life in general. We just had a conversation on this kind of thing with, we had a Illyria Black Legacy Connection group out of Illyria that goes over like their history of African Americans in Illyria specifically and what they've gone through and stuff like that. And what happened to the black community came up during a topic, and we talked a lot about the welfare policy and things like that in the 50s. And like, once again, something made life easier, which then required less good things, right? Like families sticking together and working hard and fighting through struggles together was made easier by, well, just get the husband out of the house. Now it's a single mom. Let's just give her a bunch of money. The military is very similar. As technology has increased our capabilities to do so much of our missions and things like that. I mean, really, we shouldn't have, the fact we have boots on ground in Afghanistan and Iraq for 20 years is like a mind-boggling to me, because even from when I crossed the border in 2000, was that three, I think, 2, 3, The difference in technology from then to when I got out in 05 was like night and day. It's like, oh, they've decided to make shit cool. And like all this, like, oh, what do you mean my freaking flak jacket doesn't have to weigh like 42 pounds loaded, you know? Like, so they started to come up with different stuff. Now we're so technically advanced. I mean, here's a guy who flies drones, right? So, I mean, just think we didn't even have drones in 2005, or at least they weren't part of a unit or anything that task force that we were with. And we were with 82nd and 101st, the one tour. So now we have all this technology. Well, okay. Well, it's okay if we have a couple of ship bags. Yeah. Now it's okay that don't worry about PT. Oh, Johnny's at sick bay for the 18th time. Well, we can't do anything because mentally he could, you know. Well, I mean, it's just the fact, you know. There's that quote that always goes around: "Is hard times, or what is it? Hard times create hard men create easy times create weak men," or whatever the case. That you know, and that quote goes for really everything in life. And like, yeah, there was a point when everybody talked about being afraid to go to basic training, and AIT wasn't no peach either for, you know, scout or mortars or infantry or some of these different things. And then you get to your unit, and like your unit was tough on you when you were new, and they gave you shit, and they freaking made you do all the extra crap. Now that's like hazing, you know.
We were very big into the hazing community.
I mean, why not? It's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Like
you
like,
could either get hazed with everyone else, or we were going to send you to a different unit.
Yeah.
But like now, you know, I mean, we just had what 125 planes that took part in that last bombing over in Iran, and you know, you've got probably a total of I don't know, he might have even said the number, but it's probably less than 500 people that even knew about the mission or were part of it. The rest of Joe is just sitting back at his barracks watching it on TV like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And just like a regular population, half the people are probably actually, I would say it's probably like 25% of the people are serious, where they're either acquiring a firearm or they're trying to get in a little bit healthier, or they're eating better, or trying to get in shape, better themselves as a person. Half of them know that they should, but they're just not. And then you have the other half that just wants to blame the other half for everything that's wrong and not actually do anything at all except complain and get in the way. And I mean, military is probably a lot like that. It's
getting there, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I was always a bigger guy in the military, but you know, I was able to, you know, pass tape because I got taped into the Army. I got taped my whole career, all 9 years. So,
yeah, how tall are you? About 6'1"?
6 foot.
So, yeah, I mean, I can tell right now.
I packed on the pounds in the last year.
You're over 180 pounds and you're taped.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I was 200 coming out of basic, and that was the skinniest I was. But, you know, going overseas and stuff like that, you know, I would put on muscle for sure, and I would be in great shape. But even great shape, walking in at, you know, 15 to 18% body fat, I'm still 220, 225.
Yeah.
And I'm 40 pounds overweight. So I would go into these leadership meetings and they're like, "Oh, you're overweight." And I passed tape, and they're like, "Well, you're 45 pounds over your amount." I'm like, where's it going to come off at? Yeah. You know, and that was, you know, I was really heavy in the gym and stuff like that. So I was in, you know, much different physical shape than I am now, but it's like, I'd have to be skin and bones to, you know, and I had a picture of me coming out of basic, and, you know, my ribs were sticking out, my hip bones were sticking out, you know, I still had the shaved head, my jawline was, you know, sticking out, and I was still like 202.
I was just saying, I went into basic, I was in a remarkable shape my senior year. I think I was like probably 205. I looked like a Ethiopian when I came out of basic, like, all that weightlifting and all that stuff went right out the window when you're doing flutter kicks, push-ups, and runs every single day, and no weightlifting or training, and barely getting enough calories to get through the day. Like, man, that was intense. Now, who knows? We're probably eating all kinds of good stuff now.
Evan, what does that mean, getting taped?
I have no idea. It's probably losing a lot of weight.
No, it's getting your
body measure,
your BMI,
measure. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, they would measure your neck and then measure your waist and then factor in your height and your age and do a bunch of magic formulas.
Wasn't picking on you, Evan. Most people don't know what it means.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought that was like.
I wanted these guys to explain it.
Earlier, if you commented that you thought Evan was going to bring any valuable questions to the podcast, we are now about an hour and 20 minutes in. Evan, do you have any valuable?
No, I'm just listening because I didn't know about some of this stuff.
Well, good thing you have your laptop on your table so that you're 4 feet away from your microphone, so you can bring attention to these valuable insights.
Jesus.
Oh man. So how how much even as a drone pilot from when you started to when you got out, like I'd imagine the technology changed considerably just over that short amount of time.
Yeah, quite a bit, especially when we switched over to the V2. And, I know just aviation as a whole is always constantly upgrading. And the Echo models rolled out for the Apaches and stuff like that. So I got to do a lot of work with the Apaches when I was in Korea. So my last time to Korea, I went over. So there used to be a rotational unit that would every 9 months they'd go over, they'd switch out. It used to be armored brigades, which is what I was in the first time I went. Then they kind of switched to striker brigades, and then from there they decided to stand up a permanent unit. So that's what I did. I went over and stood up 517 Cav in South Korea, and I was the standardization operator for a while, trying to get the unit off the ground and stuff like that. And there was a handful of great instructors that were there with me, and really helped set everything up. And I don't know where I was going with that. I started thinking about Korea and forgot about the question.
Oh man. Well, I just how much the technology had changed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, just the Sims in a whole, and then like even the generators that we ran our shelters and stuff off of, they went from the old 10Ks that you were probably used to 15K TQGs, which are tactical quiet generators that are X amount of percent decibel, quieter, because generals love pie charts and percentages. So that is where the money needed to go more.
Sure.
Rather than waterproofing our drones.
Jesus.
So, so we got a quiet generator, so that way my tinnitus is not service connected. But
your drones fall out of the sky when it's raining, and thundering. Oh, Jesus.
So, but yeah, and then, they came out with like the high powered launcher as compared to the regular launcher. And then same with they went from the 1101 engines to the 1102 engine. So they really upgraded a lot of stuff. And even if it was minimal, it all added up collectively to, get us further, get us farther, get us higher. They came out with
probably better cameras.
But yeah, that's what I was going to say so we had the POP 300 or the POP 300 Delta, which the Delta has the laser designator on it. And they came out with the MX10, which was, night and day difference. It's like going from black and white TV to, 4K flat screen TV.
Wow.
And yeah, you can do thermal overlay and all kinds of other stuff. And it just, by the end of it, our job was super easy at that point. And, everything was kind of dummy proof too, with all the software updates that we had and everything else. It was, if it's good, it's green. If it's not good, it's either going to be yellow or red on your screen. And you have a Wicca panel, which is like warnings, cautions, and alerts. If it's red, it's a warning. And, whether it's oil temp or RPMs or something like that, and you look at it and, if you're a good operator, you can know what's wrong by looking at it. Or you go into your little checklist and you find it, oil propulsion system's red. This is what my follow-on actions are. So it was very... my last time in Korea, there was 3 or 4 times where I basically landed an uncontrolled aircraft just because, there's automatic flight modes and there's manual flight modes. And if the automatic stuff's not working, then give me the controls. And, we couldn't, fly by sticks or fly by wire. And we didn't have joysticks because it was all, mouse and keyboard, but we could take control, and it's called knobs was the flight mode. And, you could do knobs roll or knobs heading.
Mm-hmm.
If your magnetometer's out, you can't use heading. So we would do knobs roll for most of it. And, we controlled the roll of the aircraft. We could control the airspeed, the altitude, stuff like that. And then just bring it to where you need to be to get acquired with the landing antenna. And there was a whole system that you put in, you measured the runway and the width and the slope and all this other stuff. And then, as long as you were within that window that antenna is going to look, once the TALS, the tactical automated landing system, connected with the aircraft, you don't touch it from there.
Gotcha.
And it does all those calculations to bring it in on the right glide slope. And then based off that number that you measured from the antenna to the center of the runway, it's going to bring it in on that slope.
Really?
Yeah.
So essentially, you just got to get it within vision of that.
Yeah, it's like 4 kilometers or something like that, or 8 kilometers.
So what are you
in fair
using on
weather.
are you using a mouse and keyboard? So like, are you literally controlling all that with like arrows? Like you're clicking on this and dropping the temp or the speed, and you're clicking on this.
Yeah, you could. It was all sliders or like the AV control panel that we had up with, and you could see the map. You could just click on the map and it would go there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or if you're flying this way and you click on the map up here, it would just change the heading that way.
Wow. So I mean, it's pretty. I mean, for looking as old school as it did, it's a pretty technical.
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. And we had points navigation, which you select a point on a map and you can select the radius from 600 meters to 3,600 meters, and it would just loiter. And you could choose counterclockwise, clockwise, or you could do into the wind to make it more fuel efficient. And that's what we'd click points nav and then go out back of the shelter and smoke a cigarette or something. Just peek your head in every once in a while, make sure it's still flying and you're good. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said you're with your new job now, you're a test pilot for a company that's trying to create a hydrogen fueled drone.
Yeah.
Correct?
So the company.
When you say hydrogen fueled drone, are you talking about like personal size, or are you talking like full size drones? Like
it's all under Part 107. So it's between the 0.55 and 55 pound limit right now.
Okay.
And what we're
0.55, half a pound.
that
versus
250 gram.
Oh,
threshold.
so it's like just over that up to
Yeah.
the 500 or 55 pounds
Yeah.
limit is what they're trying to operate. Well, because I can imagine. I mean, how are these fueled now?
So a lot of it's a VTOL thing. Everything's going to VTOL, which is all electric.
Okay.
There are some companies out there that have gaseous hydrogen, bottled hydrogen, and then there's a fuel cell that converts the hydrogen to electric energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you go from there. What we're trying to do is liquid hydrogen, and
Like literally just a water bottle, like a bottle.
So it has to be like negative 400 and some degrees in order to be a liquid, but as it comes out of the vacuum tank, it goes into the fuel cell, and like 1 kilogram of liquid hydrogen is like a factor of 20 compared to battery power.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So are you guys actively flying these now with hydrogen power?
I don't know if I'm allowed to answer.
I was gonna say I don't know what, but
I can't say yes or no.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because like I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement
Makes
just to have
sense.
my interview. So
Gotcha.
but yeah, and it's a lot of like high contract stuff. Like a lot of the stuff that we do is like directly through the Department of Energy at the White House.
Wow.
So and the owner of the company has a contraption that he's patented, and that is like his bread and butter of getting these contracts, and like he has taken it into the courtyard of the Pentagon for like these expos and stuff like that. So
I can imagine he's probably in a rush to get something developed too, because I'm sure there's others that are not far behind at this point with technology.
yeah, it's everybody is shooting for hydrogen now, but not a lot of people are liquid hydrogen capable.
Gotcha.
Or they are liquid hydrogen capable, but they're not able to make it, which is the difference maker there.
Is it hydrogen just for the emissions, or is it availability, or
It's for the emissions, one, because it's zero emissions.
Sure.
But two, it is the power to weight ratio. So the amount of power and energy you get out of the hydrogen is much better than the battery. Your
Right.
5
So
pound
essentially,
battery
if
that
I
you
have a
sitting in there.
5 pound electric or a lithium battery or whatever, and then I have a 5 pound liquid hydrogen fuel cell.
Yeah.
You said that's the equivalent of basically 100 of these batteries.
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. Yeah.
So
well, yeah, and as you're burning, I mean, that's the other side of aircraft is you're lightening your load as you're burning, even though you're talking
Right.
about 5 pounds, like
no, yeah, I was just
you're
saying,
becoming 4 pounds lighter as you're burning, so you have an extended range.
right, where that battery is just still the same weight no matter what
Right.
the entire time. But yeah, just the fact that you get that much more power out of it. I mean, shoot, if I'd buy an electric car if it would go 1,500 miles on.
Oh, sure, yeah.
on what's it called? You hear that, Elon? I challenge you.
Liquid hydrogen.
Right.
Get with me after this podcast, Elon. We'll figure it out.
Are you you and the owner like actually is it like a smaller company? Are you
Yeah, there's
so
like
you guys,
16 people in the company.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean, is this something where he like does he feel the pressure on a day-to-day basis? I mean, that's the thing with a lot of these young geniuses or these geniuses that come up with these great ideas and how to utilize it. It's like you got to feel the pressure. Like we got to hurry up and get to the next step. I think that was always Steve Jobs' thing. Is like we got to get to the next step before somebody else does.
Yeah.
Just because we're the first to come up with the idea doesn't mean we're the first to get there unless we work harder than
I know
else.
he's, you know, I'll come in the morning and I'll have an email from him at like 2:30 in the morning or like 11 o'clock at night. And then it's like, dude, do you ever sleep?
Yeah.
So I know he's always up doing something or working on something. So
that's awesome. Well, it's cool that you get to be a part of that. And then, I mean, obviously you get to see it from both point of views, right? You get to see that from the point of view of like what he's trying to develop. And then you get to be there as like, oh, this would be pretty sweet, or it could do this, or.
Yeah. And he's come to me with some ideas where I'm like, that sounds great, but you put that in the hands of soldiers overseas and it's not going to work out at all.
Gotcha.
So I've really been bridging that gap of like the end user in the military to this dude's super brain that he worked, you know, and for NASA and Case Western and, you know, all these other places that he was like a professor at or whatever. But
I think that's the issue with a lot of companies that do that. And I've worked for software companies where they're like, you're like, you know, I'm with the client. Like right now I deal with security software, right? So we're the largest security software provider in the world.
Nice.
So we deal with anybody from like a Garda over in Europe to Securitas and private security companies all the time, to as far down as like outlet malls and shopping malls, right? That just want to track their guards. But, you know, when you have a meeting and they're like, oh, we came up with this is a new rollout we have. And we're like, the fuck? No, dude, they need this. Like that's not gonna, you know what I mean? And it's good that you're getting that feedback or allowed to share that feedback, because there's a difference between boots on ground, right? Like the guys that are actually out there talking to the guys in the field, or in your case, actually operated in the field. Like, like
I'm not saying they listen all the time. But,
no, but they're willing to hear it out, and I think that's a big plus, because typically, like you said, somebody's got that big brain, or somebody's that software developer or genius, and they're like, "Oh, this would be cool if I could do that." And it's like, for who to say that we do it, because it's useless. So that's pretty awesome. Well, let's get back to the YouTube channel. What is I mean, obviously, you're probably putting in quite a few hours doing what you're doing now, or is it pretty steady as far as?
I've been making it pretty steady. So it's a salary based thing. So I show up at 6 and I'm out at 2. So,
good for you.
I don't want to work for free anymore.
Yeah,
so, you know, if I really have to stay, I will. But a lot of times, you know, if I have to work 9 hours on Monday, then I'll work 7 on Tuesday.
Good for you. That allows you to be a bit at home more, especially with the 18-month-old. Does your wife work, or?
No, she lost her job in February.
Okay, so I remember you saying I didn't know if she went back or not. What did she do before that?
She was a nurse, so she was an LPN.
Oh, really?
And she was doing a lot of telehealth stuff. And then when Trump came in and kind of just started cutting funding and stuff, she was part of that.
Was she really?
So, yeah.
Was she doing it for VA, or is she cut
it
because
wasn't through the VA, but it was from some like CCS Medical or something like that, to where it was. I think it ended up having to be like federally funded, or at least like state funded, where it ended up being cut. And like she was basically in charge of her department, and like the whole department was like gone.
Oh, wow. So I mean, for an LPN, I can't imagine it's hard for her to find something, but was that something where she was able to do that from the house or something like that?
She was doing it from home.
So allowed her to be home with the baby.
And we didn't find anything that was going to be worth her going to work and then paying for a sitter and then finding somebody that we were going to trust with him, especially with the, you know, conditions and stuff that he had.
Right.
And, it was just to the point where I was like, we won't be able to thrive, but we can survive if you don't go back to work.
Well, there's the next episode of outdoor Empty Wallet Outdoors. What to do if you accidentally shoot yourself in the foot?
Yeah.
And then you can have her make guest appearance and be like, this is the first thing you're going to want to do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, we have chickens and goats and stuff, so, and like, you need to start recording this and stuff. You know, just make a daily vlog of it.
Yeah, that's the
I don't want to do that. And it's
so Scott's wife, you met Scott in Ireland. His wife has something like 180,000 followers on Instagram for her goats.
Are you
yeah,
kidding
that's
me?
insane.
I'm not joking.
That's insane.
Yeah, for her goats. They have a lot of goats. They're on 20 acres down there, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, she's got, I think they're, I don't know, somewhere like 17 goats right now.
180,000 followers to watch goats.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, baby.
Yeah.
You gotta start recording.
Goats.
Hit record.
Yeah. 'Cause
It
we
was
have,
called
like,
totes, magoats, or something. No,
Oh, really?
something like that.
Yeah.
whatever floats your goat.
I mean,
you know?
that's
Oh, wait a minute.
that's
There we
pretty
go.
funny. That could be the name of the channel.
yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
Dude, look at that. I mean, that's the one thing when it comes to content. Like, there's always something that somebody hasn't maximized yet, and really, I mean, there's just so much content being consumed on a day-to-day basis.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know, there'll be a video like we'll cut these down into shorts and like something I'll be like, this looks like it's okay, and this one's like, oh, this one's gonna be awesome, and I'll get like 400 views.
Yeah, I've done that.
And then this one, I'm like, well, I just need to get something posted today, and it'll get like 2,100 views. I'm like, why
Yeah.
the fuck do people watch that one?
I did that last hunting season. I posted, it was like a 2-part video because this was before like shorts could be more than a minute or whatever.
Mhm.
So I posted like a part 1 and part 2, and part 1 got like 13,000 views, and I'm like, nice, here we go, you know. And then I posted part 2, and I got like 56 views.
How long? How far apart were they though? Did you post one right away, and then one like 2 weeks later?
No, they were like one after another.
Oh, like the same day you
Yeah,
posted them?
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, then that was probably because there wasn't an easy way to click to part 2, maybe.
Yeah,
on the
I guess.
video.
I don't know.
Dude, that's the hardest part is like trying to, and that's like for me, time, right? So like I post our shorts, like I'll cut them down and I'll just post it to all 4 channels, even though I know that the algorithm gets screwed up, and it'd be
Yeah.
easier if you post one here and then change the first 3 seconds and post it here, like Gary Vee says. And it's like, I need to hire somebody to do this for me.
Yeah. I told my wife, I was like, you need to start learning how to edit videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, especially if she's not working now, that'd be super fantastic
Well,
to where
I'm
you
working
could just
on-
give her a ton of content. And
I'm working on something now to where I'll be able to work for myself full time, and then she'll kind of just be like my admin type person. So when I started the business, to be honest, the pressure washing drones was my thing. Like
you were going to
that's
create
what I
a
wanted.
pressure washing drone, or do they
So
have
they're-
those
they
now? I
have
feel like
them.
I've
Yeah,
seen
they
it.
have them, but that's what I wanted to do because so I live in Burbank, so Worcester's not far, Medina's not far, Wadsworth's not far, Orville, Mansfield, Ashland.
Especially in today's
Like-
day and age with like colonial houses and 2-story
Yeah.
houses like predominantly being the thing rather
Yeah, or
than
go get contract for like cell towers or water tower, something. And that was what I really wanted to do when I got out, and I was like, all right, I started this business. I had the YouTube channel set up for Tennessee and for fishing and stuff. So what am I going to do now? And like drone pressure washing was the thing. But then, starting to learn kind of, what's going on. And I was like, I'm in Wayne County. That's the agricultural capital of Ohio. So I'm working on the funding so I can start doing crop spraying with drones.
okay.
And that's a big market right now.
Yeah.
So I know DJI has one. They have the Agris T50 that's out. But the one I'm eyeing is the Talos T60X. It's a little bit bigger, can do a little bit more acres an hour and stuff. Definitely more expensive. Like one battery is $4,500, but
Holy smokes.
yeah.
For just the battery.
But it's like a 10.5-foot wingspan, and it's a quadcopter.
Wow.
So it's kind of it's a big rig. But yeah, so I'm working on that.
Hold on a second. Actually, what did you say that was? Because I wonder if that's
The
what
Talos T60X.
Talos Talos
Yes.
T.
Yeah, let's look at this thing.
Well, because oh no, this isn't what I saw.
Yeah. So they have a spray. It comes as a spray drone, and then they have a
Is this it
spreader
right
tank
here?
that you can put on. Yeah. That's it.
Oh, that's not what I thought I saw. I must saw an actual plane. Let's see if there's a video. I can't read videos.
But yeah, so you can do seed spreading, you can do
Mike
spraying, you
Reneway
can do
Ag.
whatever.
I'm excited to show you guys.
shit.
Oh, I've seen this before. Some guy gets
Yeah.
shot,
impressions
gets
of the
puts on it, and then he
T60X. We're just
gets
gonna
dropped into a
start
pot. He
and
holds
kinda
on to
go
it.
Yeah, I
around
saw
it,
that.
and when
So
it
this
gets
guy's
out,
actually
I'll
in
point
Dundee,
it out.
Ohio, which is
First
down
off,
by
with
Oh,
like
really?
Navarre area. Yeah.
the
So
T60X
he
comes
made
with
the
big
drone
bright
deer
lights
recovery
and
thing
those
big
really
too, which is
help
what I
for
started
night
doing.
flying. And then we're just gonna hop
Dang, look at the
right
lights on
into
that
the
thing.
FPV camera. Check out this FPV camera. This FPV camera is fixed, but it has a gimbal setting just like a normal gimbal. It does it digitally. So it would have like a fisheye cropped in to give you that feel of gimbal. So if I pull down the gimbal, it still will react like that. I really, really like this because I have my L3 button set as a hotkey to look down, and the second I push that, it is like very, very fast. The FPV at night is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. You can clearly see up to like 200 feet away when you're doing night operations. And then up front here as well, you got the antennas for your reception. The
That's cool.
reception on this drone is insane. Then you got your vision sensors up here.
What's the ratio or the range on something like that? I imagine it's got to be like 20 miles or something
Yeah,
like that.
a few miles for sure. I know, like if it's loaded down, like the battery doesn't last very long, just
Gotcha.
because, the vertical lift motors, it takes a lot of power to get it off the ground, especially when it is loaded. But then also the power of utilizing the pump or the auger system or something to get the feed and stuff out. But I've watched his videos pretty much religiously, like researching, like, is this something I can do full time? Is it something that, I can make a living off of doing? Like, how much time am I going to spend doing this? How much fuel am I going to use? Blah, blah, blah. And they're landing on their trailer. Like this dude has his own trailer system that he sells, and he's landing on the trailer, refueling the spray tank and swapping out a battery, and he's back in the field in like 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
So yeah. But I mean, probably, 10, 20-minute battery life on it if it's,
Oh, really?
loaded down and spraying. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're probably cruising too, though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It goes like 35 feet a second, I think, or something like that. It's pretty quick.
Sport mode, man. Look at that.
Yeah.
No kidding. 35 feet per second. That's pretty fast.
Spoiler alert, you cannot catch this one in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut my hand off.
That was part of that was a video I did that I landed in my hand I'm with my waders on at the river, like, oh, I'm flying on the river and you can land anywhere. And I was like, that's going to be a good video. I got like 100 views.
Yeah.
So do you do anything with like DJI drones or anything like that? Or
Yeah. So I have the 3T Enterprise now, and I was doing drone deer recovery and stuff like that with it last year.
Now, is that, you say drone deer recovery. So are you, does it have thermal optics on it?
Yeah.
So it can actually do heat signatures and stuff?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
That's what the T is the Mavic 3 thermal. But yeah, I did a few of them last year of, going out, finding deer, and then, they have the JZ60 spotlight that goes on the top of them. And, you'd pick up the heat signal, and then you would, turn spotlight on, flip over to the EO camera, and, oh, that's my buck, or oh, that's not my buck, or whatever. And you just kind of keep going. So
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I mean, we live in a day and age where there's so much you can be doing with drones. Have you ever thought about just doing content creation for drones, or you just don't want to go through the editing process, I guess, at that point?
yeah, I mean, I would. I would love to do anything as long as I can make a sustainable living off of doing it. So, I talked to my wife, getting out of the Army, working for the Army and Uncle Sam for 9 years, and canceling events and missing family events and everything else. And we started the business, and I was like, I want to take the first year as a learning year, and I want to just kind of play it by ear, take notes, good or bad, just learn. So we did that. February of this year rolled around, and I was like, okay, what's the next step now?
So and that was the business as far as starting to do some of the stuff with the drones, right? With the feeding. Are you doing the feeding yet, or no?
No, not yet.
No, that's just with the recovery.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
recovery and like photography and videography and stuff like that. Because even though that it has like the thermal camera on it, it still has a good enough camera that you can go get. I would do, videos or photos for like real estate, or, for the auctions that are going on, do a, aerial imagery for stuff like that. So, but, my next big venture, I think, is going to be the crop spraying. Cause I told her, I was like, in 5 years after starting the business, I want to be having the conversation of, can I do this full time? Like, can I do something full time and work for myself? And I was like, but by the time 10 years rolls around, by the time I'm 40, I don't want to work for anybody but myself. So
it's a good goal.
Yeah. So, and here I am a year and a half later, and I'm working heavily with somebody now to hopefully get the funding to be able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And not to be, I mean, you're already testing some of the stuff that they have available. So
yeah,
to say that he doesn't create the first, what's it called? Drone that's for agriculture, that's hydrogen based.
Right. Yeah. And I had asked him, he doesn't necessarily know that I'm trying to leave him to go do my own thing, but I have asked him before, like, he's from Burbank, actually. Like, he grew up he grew up in Burbank, which is even weird. Yeah. Cause like my wife's grandma on her dad's side was like his lunch lady at Burbank Elementary or something. Like it was super weird. But yeah, so you know, with him being from this area, I was like, have you ever thought about, you know, getting your Extend system into agriculture? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So that's always been in the back of my mind of like, if I do branch off and do this, and he does have this system, and I, you know, we work together on some type of prototype, like that could just blow the industry away of, well, yeah, now I have this drone that can spray or spread seed. Instead of swapping the battery out every 9 minutes, then I can go do a 100-acre field before I have to, you know, change anything.
Change everything out and stuff like that. Yeah, it just, I mean, everybody's, especially farms, are always looking at a way to cut cost, right? Yeah. That takes a lot of time up from the other ways.
Yeah, big time. And then, you know, I know farmers that are paying a little bit more an acre for the drone spraying just because now they don't have to go out and do it. And that saves them 2 days worth of time that they get back now doing something else. So, you know, it's worth it for them in the long run.
Yeah, anytime that you can save some, I mean, especially something like that, like, I mean, it's time consuming and it's not going to be something that's beneficial to you. I mean, obviously you need to do it, but it's something that could be generating revenue for you in another factor, in another way.
100%.
That's a great way to automate too. So, I mean, I'm familiar with, you know, crop spraying from aircraft, obviously, which requires aircraft pilot, et cetera. But smaller fields like this, not only using this, but if the fields are static, they could be automated.
Yeah, eventually, absolutely.
And it all is, you know, you can, you know, you can, before you even get to that field, you can pull up the map and trace the outline of it, and then it'll generate the flight pattern and everything. So you pull up, you fill up, pop the battery in, and it's off to the races.
And then you're smoking cigarettes just like in the military.
Right. Yeah. Points nav.
Yeah, I was just where are we going? Was it? I think we were driving into Columbus, and we saw one of those crop planes. Holy smokes! The maneuverability on this thing was amazing. This thing literally comes up over the highway. I thought it was a plane crash at first. Like he like swooped in, comes around a corner. I don't know how he didn't hit the pole, and then like basically just nose dives over these trees. And I mean, he wasn't more than a half a mile to a mile in front of us. And I was like, when we get up there, I'm waiting to see this dude in the trees. Like he's done. And then nope, just cruising down there and coming back up. And I was like, man, this is incredible. But yeah, with the drone, just being able to automate that and to find a way to generate revenue. I mean, drones are becoming such. Do you look at a drone controller like on a DJI, like on a, I don't know, we have the Mini 4s or whatever. And do you look at that and you're like, God, this is so simplified. Like this is, I enjoy it more. This is cute.
I'd rather have control on the sticks than I would just a mouse and keyboard.
Really?
Yeah. I feel I don't want to say I feel more connected to it because that's gay, but like I feel like I have better control of the aircraft by just flying it with the sticks myself, and I feel a lot more comfortable, like driving in a car.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like if you're going, through a racetrack or through a bunch of hills and curves, and you're in the passenger seat, you're kind of like holding on or using your legs to brace yourself. But when you're in the driver's seat, you're smooth, you're relaxed and stuff. So I feel like that's the difference. Pointing and clicking, and then you're sitting there monitoring, like waiting for something to go wrong type of thing. But whenever you're on the sticks, you're controlling the gradual turns or the acceleration or, all the changes, and it's all controlled by you and not the software. So
yeah, for sure. It's 7:30. I don't know if you have a time crunch. Is there anything else you guys want to ask at all specifically, or because
no. He covered a lot of stuff I was going to ask about.
Oh, really? Go
from your questionnaire.
Well, from my question, yeah. So
that's what I would say if I wasn't prepared to.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I do have some. So obviously, we get into current event just for a few minutes before we take off. With obviously your experience in the military and drones and things like that. What goes through your mind when you hear like Ukraine's drone mission on Russia? Like, do you see that and like think to yourself like, man, these things are capable of even more than that?
It's genius. I actually went and helped a lot of the Ukraines. Like my last Europe rotation, I helped a lot of countries with like drone programs and stuff. And then helping them was like the first time I actually put the goggles on to fly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
so put some context behind this real quickly here, because when we were gonna do, we had the LA riots thing just recently kind of interrupt. We were gonna do a whole episode on this. I don't know why I'm losing my voice, by the way.
It's like slowly getting further.
I don't even, you would think like, I'm like a rock star singer or something here, but sounded like Axl Rose over here. I don't know. But okay, just a quick question for you guys. Any idea what an aircraft carrier costs to build?
Oh gosh,
Only 10 million.
Price wise,
No,
I know it's
million?
No,
I know
no, it's
like $50 billion,
Yeah.
but I also
Yeah.
know it takes like 10 years to make it.
right.
Yeah, there's most aircraft that are sitting on aircraft carriers cost more than 10 million. By the way, there's more than that in fuel sitting on that thing
Oh
that
my
go in
God.
there. But yeah, and then 10 years to build it, and then they hold aircraft that cost 2-3 billion
Yeah.
for 35s or 22s or whatever. All right, so in contrast, what does a 55-foot shipping container cost?
About $1,500.
Yeah, you could
$2,500.
Yeah, they're for sale everywhere, right? Yeah. So that drone attack that Ukraine did on Russia it's in the back of a semi.
Right.
So it's filled with drones. All right. So what does a tractor trailer cost? That's like $30,000. I mean, you can find those on Marketplace too, right? Yeah. So imagine that they did that attack with a truck and trailer and a bunch of drones in the back, right? So what did that cost?
Yeah, I mean, overall, you're talking about probably a $300,000 to $500,000.
If that,
Yeah.
right?
Depending on the ordinance and stuff that you were using with
Yeah.
the drones.
Isn't that amazing?
But I mean, and I don't want to get super off subject on that, but that just goes to like being able to when you have an overabundance of stuff, and you have money, you just do it, right? But when you don't have money and you need to find a way to defend yourself or to do something, you get ingenious and creative. I mean, that's where a lot of the stuff that we have today came from. Is like somebody had the idea of how can we do this and do it for the least amount of money. Then they sold it to the government, and the government then charged 25 times more for it. Because you can even go back to Iraq. Like, I mean, you have villages with IEDs, right? Like, we hit multiple IEDs throughout the time we were there, and it was the least expected. I mean, you had to literally get to the point. The scariest part about IEDs wasn't hitting one; it was the time you spent looking for one. Like every 5 seconds, be like, "Should I look into that?" Or what was that? Like, it's a 20-ounce water bottle on the side of the road, but you thought twice when you passed it. Like mentally, it played a game with you. And just like now in Russia, every semi-truck Connex trailer is probably being looked at with some scrutiny.
Yeah.
Right. And it came from a place of we just need to do something to compete because they're better. They have more money than us. They have more people than us.
So they said that attack cost them 12 aircraft and $7 billion worth of damage.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
With $100,000 ish, or maybe 300,000.
I mean, it just
on
depends
the
on
top
the
end.
ordinance, but right. Yeah. And I mean, they didn't pay for it. We gave it to them probably.
Right.
Yeah, that's so it cost them nothing.
Oh, well, they went on to Amazon and bought all the drones, basically. That's why we couldn't get, drones before we went out of town. They were all sold to Ukraine.
Yeah, I know a lot of their, a lot of the early Ukraine Russia stuff that was coming out was a $500 drone plus the modifications that they would use for the drop, or they would just strap it to it.
Right.
And it was costing them $700 to $1,000 to go and fly this ordnance into an open hatch of a Russian tank that cost $2 million.
Right.
And they were doing that over and over and over. And a lot of these Ukrainian drone companies, when all this stuff happened, they turned into defense manufacturers. And they were all, 5, 6, 7 drone manufacturers in the Ukraine were like, we're hiring everybody. We're pumping them out.
Yeah.
And they made like 1.4 million drones last year just in the Ukraine for
That's
this.
wild.
So
they weren't DJI drones.
No.
With the flyaway protection where they get a replacement. Okay. Just making sure, some of the people out there think they're the same,
No, they're not the same. But yeah, it's an attrition war 100%. And and it's working.
Oh yeah.
It's working enough to where the U.S. Army just slashed their FTUAS program, their Future Tactical UAS program. And, a lot of that funding is now going into the engine program for the Black Hawk replacement. I think it's the Bell, whatever it is. But Bell is like a subsidiary of Textron anyhow. So Textron still owns the Army as far as aviation goes. But, but yeah, they're developing the motor or the engine for that helicopter. And a lot of that money from the Future drone program essentially is now going to that, because now it's up to the units. Like several of my old units, the 173rd in Italy is flying the Flying Basket just to get some hours. And then you have the PDW 100, whatever it is, being flown at Campbell, and another unit at Campbell is flying the, Skydio X10D, and then you have a unit in Fort Hood that's flying, another small UAS that they have. So it's really on to the units now to take that funding and go get something to fly or test and kind of go from there.
Rather than continue to build drones to do.
Correct. Instead of having to program a record.
Why is that?
Because I think, now, I'm not an expert. I don't have a degree in anything, but I think a lot of that is just because of the success that Ukraine has had against Russia. You have $1.2 million drone that doesn't have munitions.
Right.
You can laser designate, which saved a lot of lives from Apache pilots. When you can have an Apache hidden behind a mountain, you fly the drone over to laser the target, they pop up and shoot their Hellfires, and then they go back behind coverage. That's great, but we're not in a coin operation anymore.
Right.
You were part of the coin operation. We, 2020 even or 2021, 2022, when I went to ALC, which is like advanced leader course to get promoted to staff sergeant, like they were already fully adopted on the large scale combat operations side again. And they were already refocused on near peer threats, which you're not going to get out of the Shadow platform,
right?
Which is why they kind of just up and nixed it in a hurry. So you can accomplish everything that we were accomplishing with the Shadow with these small UAS, but instead of designating for manned platforms, now you just strap an ordnance to it. You go blow it up. You're out, $1,500, but then you just get another one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because, like you said, like you're talking about a $1.3 million piece of equipment that can really just take pictures and video.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And with satellite imaging and things like that today's day and age, like, yeah, real time helps. It'd be super beneficial, like when we were crossing the border into Iraq, or when you're moving into, a new territory, rather than sending recon scouts up and stuff like that. But you could do that with a smaller drone too.
Yeah. Now. We would do a lot of route recon and stuff like that. And we could fly, 125 kilometers, which is usually further than most of these small UAS.
Of course. But like, I think back to it, like when you're traveling from one area to X, if I can see 5 miles in front of me, I'm happy.
Right.
You know what 100%. I mean? Because you could look 125 miles out, but by the time you're coming back, that initial quarter of a mile could have been changed completely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so. And the imagery, honestly, the MX-10 was great, but the Pop 300 Delta, it wasn't great at all. I was in Korea, and we did aerial security for the Olympics in Seoul, and we flew over the Olympics and did some of that, and we're like 8,000-9,000 feet. And we still can't see anything that's going on down there. We're trying to watch a soccer game or something, and you can't really see it. You see some blobs rolling around, but that's it.
Yeah.
So it's not like like the manned intelligence platforms that have like legit cameras that they're 30, 40, 50,000 feet, and they're taking you can count the ass hairs on a frog or something from that high up, but.
Well, I think it just goes, it's one of those things where like, the Army was like, or military in general was like, this is a great way for us to keep troops out of harm, which it was initially. Unfortunately, the technology got better on the public sector than it did on the military side.
Oh, yeah,
of
big
things.
time. Because you had a lot more people coming at it with different perspectives. You have, there's a ton of manufacturers for drones, and it's like, well, why would I go get this if this person's making it and stuff like that? But it's like, you can literally just really get specific on what you want, and somebody's making it.
Right.
So there's something everywhere, but there's also everything somewhere.
Well, that's like we talked about the Mini 4. Like, for instance, I can fly that at 1,500 feet, have a great view of what's below me, and I can get 3 miles out. Like, so, I mean, it's not super fast, but you're not seeing that thing 1,500 feet in the air unless you're specific, unless you know where to look.
Right.
So who's going to shoot it down?
Yeah.
Chances are that thing's going to run circles around in the 30 minutes that it's got flight time before it, So, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing at where technology comes from on the public sector. And the public sector also operates faster, right? I'm sure you guys would, if you were a military RAN program, like I understand you guys have contracts that you're trying to get, but like, you don't have to go through approval to do something. You can just
Right.
test it, do it, and see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah, we get the funding and then we do what we need to do and then we come back and report to them.
Right.
And it makes it nice. It
Yeah,
makes
of
it
course.
easy.
Yeah, because do what you guys do. It's when the government gets involved in doing the actual act that it becomes
Yeah.
a significant issue.
100%.
So let's talk about this last mission that just took place. Obviously, hopefully the ceasefire sticks. I think it made it full 24 hours as of about right now.
Pretty close, yeah.
And it's let's see, 2 a.m. there. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten any alerts. That's a good thing. Missions like that, are they using a drone for any aspect of that mission? Maybe reconnaissance or
For
no?
something like that, no, because there's nothing that can fly that far, that long, that's going to benefit unless they had unmanned elements in the area already
Right.
that could do, like a I don't want to say like a route recon, but like a pre-route recon type
Right.
of thing of, maybe there's not, like you said, if I go scan, an hour before these planes come, battlefield can change a lot in that time.
Right.
So, maybe not for how do I say this? Maybe not for like a direct impact, but as far as like the decoy package goes, or maybe they launch 4 of them at the same time and fly them to the east whenever for like an element of surprise thing. They absolutely could, but I just don't think that you can get anything long enough to fly that long to really play impact in that mission.
Gotcha. Trying to think where else is going to go with that. I don't know.
And it's hard to really do an armed escort with an unmanned aircraft.
Yeah, I
either.
was going to say you're not keeping up.
Doesn't matter how many cameras you have on there. The actual like sense of being in the in the platform and in the area of operations that's going on in the sky is completely different when you're in the helicopter compared to whenever you're watching it on a camera.
When you see things going like that, are you glad you're out of the military at this point in time, or do you still kind of miss it?
I miss it for sure. I wasn't ready to get out, to be honest. I asked to get out, but that
Circumstances.
was 100%. Because like I had my career lined up. I was just hitting my 9 years. I was going to drop my warrant packet, go be a warrant officer, and then retire as a CW2 at 20 years. So that was my plan. That was my long-term goal, and it just didn't happen. So I still feel like I owe a sense of duty to the country just because I wasn't personally ready to get out. And I can fulfill some of that here with, working for the Army and Air Force contracts and everything. But I definitely miss the dudes for sure.
Yeah,
But there's some times where it's like, I wish I was still in for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Have you done anything as far as piloting for military or anything, police or anything locally? Like,
No, I've thought about it.
do they? Because I don't even know if those are unit. I know that your partner down south is he does flights for the military, doesn't he? Or for the police? I mean,
Who?
the guy that the dog plays, the dog trainer. Doesn't he do drone piloting?
Yeah, well, he supplies.
Oh, he's a supplier.
He just supplies.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
out to the east.
Gotcha.
I know
But,
there's
yeah.
one of the dads for the baseball team that I coach for the oldest boy. He's a state trooper, and I've talked to him just to pick his brain because the DFR programs are really starting to get approved and implemented.
DFR.
Drone is first responder,
Gotcha.
and whether that's somebody taking flying a medical bag somewhere, or a drone with red and blue lights, as funny as that looks,
Yeah.
it's some RoboCop
They have
stuff,
them in
but-
Europe.
yeah, and they're using
We
them.
have
for
them
sure.
here. They're in use
I
here.
mean,
Yeah.
New York City used them with the police department to ticket people during COVID for being outside with
Get
Yeah,
out of
for
here.
remember that.
public gatherings and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So
in Europe,
that's-
they use
that's a
them
little
to catch,
more like-
citizen drone users from flying into
Yeah.
violent places. Like it's like you can fly here if you want to. If you see red and blue lights in the sky, they are after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
So
like,
that's
oh.
a little bit more Big Brother-ish, but I know they are having people for drone as first responders, as far as dude on a pursuit hops out and runs into the woods. Well, instead of having a helicopter come all the way up, Joe Schmo, a couple blocks down has a drone and he's registered for whatever. And they'll have him fly it up and kind of, look and stuff like that. And
all of the SRT teams, all the SWAT teams everywhere here, they all have them with thermal imaging and everything.
Yeah.
We have a seasonal element here, which prevents us from having helicopters year round. So you get down to Columbus and south, they've got helicopters year round. So that's their first choice. But here, you can have a drone up a lot quicker, because they'd have to fly a helicopter from likely Columbus, refuel, then be on scene. So to find a body, it's just not.
What do you mean? What's the limit on a helicopter flight? I wasn't even aware of that.
Usually about 2 hours of fuel on board when you leave the ground.
Yeah, but why can't they leave the ground here?
Because they don't keep a helicopter here year round. Because
they don't keep one here.
Yeah. So just like with drones, specifically with helicopters, if you can't see stars, you're not flying. So for 6 months out of the year, now there's a helicopter in Cleveland, so they have one there, but the state's helicopter, first of all, none of the departments up here can afford to have helicopters. That's the first part. So in the state's helicopter is only going to be up here for about 4 months.
Gotcha.
Because it's not flying when it's snowing. So
good to know.
Yeah, talking to the dad from the baseball team, he's a state trooper, and he said that the SRT teams and the recon teams kind of have their own drones and their own pilots that they have and stuff like that. So I don't think being contracted out is going to really catch on to be a big thing.
Gotcha.
But when I got out, I originally asked around just to see who do you have to fly your drones and where do they get their training and stuff from? Because I would have loved to Worcester, Wayne County Sheriff, Medina County Sheriff, I would go be an instructor for these guys all day long.
There's a lot of people that are pissing on those bushes right now, but that is a thing. It likely will go through the all hazards team, because they'll do call outs and it's paid. So it'd be sort of I don't know, on paper, it'd be like volunteer firefighting.
Okay.
In essence. So that is a possibility. It's just there are a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of the volunteer firefighters that are doing it. But we could talk a little bit more about that offline, because that's also something that I've thought about. And that's what TJ is doing, is he's taking those drone packages and selling them into the groups that are doing that, whether it's for search and rescue or recovery, or it's in the middle of, let's say, Norwalk, Ohio, super small departments, but they have somebody very dangerous out there. But the federal resources are 4 hours away chasing somebody else. Yeah, they'll dispatch somebody who's already been cleared in the process through background, whatever. So,
and I'd love to do that. If I get a call at 10 o'clock at night, hey,
let's go.
We're looking for so-and-so or, whatever. I'd be like, all right, I'll be there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot you can do with that. I mean, as long as it doesn't take too much away from hunting, fishing, and mountain deer heads. Got to keep doing that too. In fact, I was thinking I was going to give you a car. We had the guys from the Oak Barrel Company on here. God, it's probably been about 2 months now.
Couple months, yeah.
But one of them is in Burbank. And the other one runs a shop in.
Evan's trying to escape.
What do you got going on here, Evan?
I got to submit a report by 8.
That's code word for he's got to take a dump.
No, I literally have to submit.
Don't you have your computer right in front of you?
I have it on my phone.
On your phone.
You got 11 minutes.
All right. Well, we're gonna be calling this a night here soon. But where was I going with that? I don't even remember what I was just talking about before you so rudely interrupted.
The Oak Barrel guys.
Oh yeah. So the Oak Barrel guys, they came in. They've done quite a bit of work. They do all kinds of different stuff. But I bet you they'd be a great contact for making plaques. He's right there in Burbank. They've got CNC machines. They've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's perfect.
It's like your logo. And
they're Berlin, the other B.
That's where his shop is.
Yeah,
but
he lives in
one of them
Burbank,
lives
right?
out there, and then one of them lives in Burbank.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got his number. They actually have a small shop in that. What's that Medina thing called again?
Oh, the Common Grounds.
Yeah, the Common Grounds.
Okay.
They run a shop out
They'd be a
of.
good guy for. Yeah, I was thinking about them too when he was talking.
Yeah,
about the
and
plaques.
I was gonna say the other thing. He's like, man, when you have somebody that's in the military and you have somebody that works hard for a living, you just want to do an extra special job for him and take care of him and stuff like that. So might be a great contact. I'll give you all his information when we get done here. that's the other part of this is networking and learning stuff about what people do. Like I'm definitely going to probably reach out to you when it comes to drone. I mean, I'd like to get better at flying the drone, period. And
Yeah,
my
for sure.
attention span on watching a video is terrible.
Yeah.
It's more like I just need to do it. And then like, as I'm doing something, like figure it out and kind of be showed. So
Have you ever crashed a drone, Will?
have I ever crashed a
have
drone?
you ever crashed a
Oh
drone?
yeah, I've definitely crashed a drone.
Just checking.
Just once though, I
Yeah.
think, right? Once. I think once for sure that I broke it. But that was my fault. It was actually when we were filming for the ice rescue team for what's the name of their group?
The Medina County All Hazards.
Yeah, the All Hazards team.
Yeah.
And we were out there filming them while they were doing an ice rescue practice.
Gotcha.
And it was like, I don't know, probably 28 degrees and it was drizzling that day. And like all the trees were like frozen solid. And I like I heard it too, like beep, 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 beep. And I was like trying to move it and I couldn't really see it. And I was like, clunk up, broke the wing
Dang.
off. But hey.
Yeah, it happens. Well, hey man, I will live 15 minutes from here, and we got 2.5 acres of yard and 9.5 acres of woods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Come out, we'll fly. You
Especially
know.
got that Mavic 4 now. I think it's supposed to go 60 miles an hour. So
Nice.
definitely want to test that thing out.
There you go.
But awesome. I'm glad you came, dude. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
the coyote head. This thing is
Yeah, for sure.
dope.
We got to figure out how we're going to mount that up on the wall there.
Yeah, well, it's gonna go somewhere cool. But
As I say, if it goes on the
feel like it
wall, I
doesn't
got a
go
wall
like
mount
that.
for
I
it.
feel like it's got to go like out like this or something. But
Yeah.
we're gonna figure out a spot for it. I've actually got a couple of shells, but for those listening, I'll put the link down in the description. But it's Empty Wallet Outdoors, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Support his channel. He's got a couple hundred followers. He's trying to grow that so he can do it from home. I mean, why not support a guy who wants to hunt, fish, and mount shit?
Yeah.
And also, comment below if you support him putting beetles in his house.
Yeah, let's take it to poll.
But yeah, man, Dakota, I appreciate you coming to join us. Definitely have to have you back on again, man. We can get into a million other topics.
Oh yeah,
but,
100%. We'll have to come back and talk about dirt bikes and go
yeah,
riding together or something.
absolutely.
Shooting, riding, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, that's all I got. Anything else?
No, rocking.
Awesome. Have a good night, everybody.